I don't even want to record.
Are you just gonna call it off?
Yeah.
Damn, that's
Aliam's
crazy.
not here. Ted's here. We're missing the sugar and the spice.
Imagine it's just me and
We're the
Alejandro. You
everything
leave
night.
because Ted left.
10 minutes in, Craig's like, you know what? I'm actually gonna go take a nap.
Yeah.
Do it by yourself. Good luck.
Alejandro, just freeball it, bro. Just talk and say what you want.
Say what you want. You know.
Check on me in 10 minutes. I'm just beatboxing freestyle.
Don't drop any.
We
like...
come back and he's like 8 minutes into the plot of B movie. He's just
Oh,
quoting
he's
B
reading.
movie.
Oh, dude.
Anyway.
Honestly, I'd watch it. It's better than what we put out.
How God damn it, you're recording.
Yes, I am recording. You're welcome. Shirts off. Episode 12.
13?
No, 12. This is 12. Yeah.
Are we sure?
God damn it! Why would you make me doubt myself? It's
I
12.
don't know. It's 12 through 17. It's somewhere in there.
No, it's 12. It's 12.
It's 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Season 3, episode 12. Today we've got Alejandro on
Hello.
talking politics, getting involved in local political government, political activism in a Trump world.
This is not a. So here's my thing.
Yeah.
Here's my immediate.
Charlie's
statement.
here. Liam's not.
exactly.
Oh wait, Charlie's here. Liam's not here. He ditched us, but we still love him. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm indifferent on my love for Alim right now.
Wow, that's crazy. He's gonna hear this.
Until
He's
I
not
see
gonna-
him again, I won't love him until I see him. Anyway.
That's super fair. Genuinely.
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
You know what? I get
I
that.
hate him until I see him again.
Right, like this, we confirmed like a week ago, and
Yeah, exactly. He was excited about it too.
Right.
He was
Like he was hyped.
He was like, "Oh, Alejandro, that's my guy right there.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to do this." And then, like, fucking dips Dea. That is wild. My statement is this: does it have look? I will talk politics. I like talking politics. I'm this guy. But are we secluding it to politics?
No.
Okay,
It's
cool.
very.
Just want to make sure. Just want to
very-
making sure we're free form as usual and flexing in and out of politics and the Oscars and all kinds of silly shit.
Well, I'm not gonna fill in on what all Alejandro's doing, but he reached out to me about coming on,
Oh yeah.
and so he hit me up with what his ideas are.
You want to talk about the fire?
He hit me up with what he wants to talk about, and I told him kind of like how we do our thing, and I figured we could weave in what all he's trying to do as well, because it is.
We can
important.
fit it in between the dick jokes.
It's
It's
important,
definitely gonna work.
but listen, I think comedy has a bit of truth in it, and also
A bit.
a lot of truth,
Yeah.
a lot of truth in it, and he's trying to do something more important than what we're trying to do. So, if anything,
For sure.
if we can help him to get his voice out there and do more through what we do, then
And I did listen to a couple of the shows before I came on, so I wasn't like, okay, this is a perfect place for me to talk.
This is simply a place for me to talk.
That's even crazier. You heard this and was like, "This is my platform."
This is the place to figure out local politics.
My big thing is just my big goal is just talking to anybody I can and everybody I can.
Yeah.
Just because discourse is very anytime you bring up politics, I feel like people have the same reaction you do. That's immediately like, okay, is this gonna be just
Is this
politics?
going to be shitty or is this going to be,
Right.
fun and exciting?
You're gonna be
Or
like, ugh.
I really, all jokes aside, I think the main problem right now is people being able to disagree in a polite way. Because for since we've been in high school, if you brought up, pick a topic, abortion, gay rights, gun rights, blah, 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 blah.
Trans rights,
Anything. It is either you're on the side that is for or against, and there's no in between. There's no, nuance. There's no gray area. There's just, I hate you, Alejandro, or I love you, Alejandro. You're my guy, or I think you should be in the ground. It's crazy. Especially when we were in high school. When we went to high school, we were in such a, chaotic, ridiculous time because of these fucking phones in our pockets.
Yeah.
Really, putting us in a bad place of instant gratification whenever we wanted it. And because of that, we got put in this mindset over the last, now 15 years or so of, if you can't tell me what I want to hear in 20 seconds, then the opinion is moot and I don't want to go forward. No one has the time or the attention span to sit down and listen to listen or just consume themselves through a book or through a long form speech, any type of opinion that is opposed to the one that they have.
Yeah, especially feel because we grew up in the time where technology was just not starting off and then it hit a boom super, super quickly.
Yeah.
I still tell people my partner has a little sister who's 6 years younger than us, and I'm I still remember taking a dump without a smartphone in my hand. Like I would just like read the back of like Febreze.
I used to literally read a book when I went to the bathroom. I would take a book when I was like 11 or 12. I was that nerd. I was the guy who was like reading Maximum Ride while I was taking a shit.
I just wasn't that
You
smart.
brought back like core memories.
I read the Febreze can like at least 20 times.
Oh, yeah.
I still couldn't name a single thing in there other than like a scent.
Dude, remember like memorizing the back of a cereal box? Like you would know where every word on the word search was.
They
like,
used to have games.
They used to have games on the back of cereal. Now they don't even. No one has it. That's not part.
They have
of
a QR code.
Yeah.
For a game.
Yeah, a QR code that gets you 15% double XP on COD Zombies. Like you
can get one of those like fancy ones, like no sugars, gluten free, all that stuff, and then it'll
have
advertise
a poem on the back.
It'll advertise us like we actually have games on the back, and it's literally just like the shittiest crossword puzzle.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I think I agree. I didn't get my first like smartphone or my first phone, actually like real phone, until I was 14.
I think that was the biggest blessing because me too. I didn't have internet at my house till I was 19 years old. Like I think that was like the biggest blessing in discause. You know, and I was so hyped when I got it, and I totally abused the fucking shit out of it when I did. But
porn right away.
But I had porn before that. I was figuring out ways to get porn.
What were
before
you
that.
doing?
Dude, Wi-Fi's everywhere.
That might be why I found out about the internet. I was like already looking at
like,
how can I get more of this?
How can I? Yeah, like that scene where the girl drops her shorts in Waterworld. I remember like pausing and rewatching that scene and going like, I need to figure out how to get this more often. It's literally like half of a frame of like butt cheek.
I'm like,
it's like, woo,
how do I get more?
Need more of that. And then, dude, the internet, are you kidding me? I remember looking up on YouTube because I didn't know it wasn't on there yet. Going like porn, just the word porn on YouTube, and they were like, nah, bro, not here.
Once I found out they had porn on Tumblr, it was all of a sudden like the #1 app on my phone.
Yep.
Oh yeah, dude, they took porn off of Tumblr, and then Tumblr died. Pretty much
gone,
right
bro.
away.
Literally, it doesn't even exist.
Does it not exist anymore?
Basically, not really. I don't think there's a lot of.
It just exists to like post recaps of like what was funny on there before. Like, remember when this happened 14 years ago?
With redacted photos,
right?
Like Reddit's kind of taking the place of Tumblr now, in a way. Like the whole blogging thing.
All that is to say, the phones are evil.
Well,
and because of that, our attention spans to like actually take in any kind of not just political ideas, but like constructive political ideas. Because everything is politics now. Now it's we're at the point where like politics, the word politics is oversaturated in what it actually means compared to what it used to mean. It used to mean, you had public officials who were trying to fight for and or constructively work on issues in a town, in a city, in the state, in the country,
right.
Whatever level, there's all kinds of different versions of politicians. And, for the longest time, you get behind the one that has the most, there was always those guys. When you watch any movie from the fucking 60s through the 90s, one of the same character always had a guy he liked but disagreed with.
Right.
No one ever had, like, totally the same opinion of one guy.
Wait, what was the time frame of this?
Like the 60s through the 90s.
Oh.
Like in movies, in film.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, like, there was some areas of that weren't exactly like that in the 60s.
No, I'm saying in a film. The reasonable guy. The guy that was like the shining light of the movie or the person who was like the intellect was never like, I'm right, everyone's wrong. He was like, I agree with that guy the most, but I don't like his take on this. It was always, there was something to work with, but you never totally agreed, and that was the show, that was the example of, like, a learned person, or a guy who's, like, keeping, in the know. He might not agree, but he's going to agree that guy's the best choice right now, because, he's looking at this thing, which is the most important, even though I don't agree with, B, C, whatever it is that I don't agree with of his opinions, Like me and Alejandro, we might both really fuck with Charizard, but like he likes Venusaur, and that's just not okay with me. You know what I mean? Like that's just that's what I'm saying and that's what politics should be. We shouldn't be I agree with him on every single issue because I like the way he said that one thing. Yeah. That's like you're a sheep. Yeah. Like you can agree to disagree and still vote for somebody.
Yeah.
100%.
I would say to your part with the phone thing as well. Like when we got out of school, and you can kind of attest to this as well because you graduated right after us, was like it was at such a politically heightened time because we graduated in 15, and
Yeah.
in 16 you've got the 2016 election, Trump and Hillary. So it's like you go from like
Wild times.
from Mitt Romney and Obama like 4 years before, which was relatively, people had opinions, but it wasn't like, crazy.
10 years ago.
The 2016 election, like I remember being in high school for that.
My brother thought the world was ending.
A lot of people did.
I remember him being so depressed, and I was like, "Bro, you are." I remember being the like not political person. Like, is this bumming you out this bad, bro? Play some fucking Borderlands. Like, what are you talking about? Everything's gonna be okay. I remember having that thought, not being a political person, then getting into politics and being like, "Yeah, I was right the whole time." You guys are way too sad about stuff that you have no control over.
My teacher cried. Like, I remember she gave me a whole speech. She was just like, she was like, I feel like I failed you guys. I told all my I told all my friends to vote. I told all my family to vote, and I still feel like my parents voted for Trump, and I'm so upset. And I was like, damn, this is crazy. And I remember though, like, I had a class that, as a senior, I only needed like 4 credits to graduate. So I skipped all of the classes I didn't need.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't let me leave early or come in late. And in one of those classes, I had a bunch of kids who were like some yee-yees.
Yeah.
And they were just coming in yelling, Trump train, Trump train. And immediately some other guys were like, dude, can you shut the absolute hell up? You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about. All I know is I'm sick of hearing this all day long.
Yeah. I don't think even like a politically active high schooler can only have such an opinion on politics.
Well, even
like
the people that were
to,
experts didn't know. Like,
well, sure, but what I mean
on.
by what I'm saying is, like, a 16-year-old should not be worried about politics. We shouldn't have been even bothered by, like, I get, if they really attack you one good way on a TV show because the thing that you think is like so important is the number one thing as a nation we should be discussing, when in reality, it's a very multi-layered, complex issue, and you're being hamstringed by like celebrity A for an issue that you haven't thought enough about. You're just going with it because Adrian Brody decided to say something about it. Pick a no shame or no judgment on Adrian.
He's
Brody.
only saying that because of the Oscars last night.
Right.
He had a long, boring speech. I love Adrian Brody, but dude, relax. But like pick a celebrity, any celebrity, fill in the space with whoever you want. Like their opinion being the thing that charges a teenager, and their mindset on like a whole political class is so wild to me. And I'm like you. I was indifferent. I like some things Trump has said. I don't like a lot of things Trump has said. Like pick any side of the political spectrum. I agree and disagree with most of it.
Right.
And I remember also being like, bro, what are we talking about, bro? When I get home, the only thing I think about fucking where I'm gonna go on infection. I need to get on Top Rock before everyone else so I can gun
right now,
Black Ops 3. I'm talking about high school. When I was in high school, I needed to fucking off spawn, get my fucking G slide in twice, get onto Top Rock and gun down that guy behind the head glitch. That was my only thought. I was like that's the only mentality I had because I was a fucking high schooler. We don't need to be worried about
what?
I do see a light. Okay, it tricked me. It went the other direction. I thought it was a
Yeah,
blue
I
light.
think a ton of us started like getting opinions on politics because they started just making politics into like memes. It was just these little snippets.
Those are the best memes though. Like they're hilarious.
They're better for us now because we're able to look at them as the humor that they are and not the like toxic, venomous shit that we were considering
Right,
them. We weren't looking at them as jokes. We were looking at them as this is a really big deal and we need to. It used to be political cartoons and newspapers, but all of a sudden,
now it's memes.
Now there it used to be, Alejandro would go to the store and he'd get a newspaper and we'd all meet up at the fucking coffee shop and then we would pass the newspaper around, or Alejandro, the only one who can read, would read it to us, and then that's how everyone took in their information. Now everyone has a phone, so you can look up 700 political cartoons who are being drawn by no one who's been vetted. Anybody could make them. It used to be you had to be a guy who got hired by the newspaper to become the cartoonist that broadcasts to what, 100,000 people that read that newspaper in that city or more, and now it's Joe Schmo can write whatever his take is and make it look pretty with a girl whose cleavage is out, and a bunch of dudes are going to be like, fucking Suzanne's got a point. Like, Suzanne and her titties have a great point about Ukraine. like that is not there are intelligent people that have opinions that can constructively give you a good amount of information based on whatever knowledge they've accumulated. But instead, now anybody can. And some people, I'm not trying to shame all the people that do this. There are people whose opinions are incredibly not only valid, but nuanced and important, and they are good opinions. And we've gotten those and we've found those in this time. But at the same time, they are watered down by the 99% of the garbage and the us, really. The us is out there trying to give political takes in the first place. Not you. Us, meaning me, because you obviously are actually trying to do something. And that's I say obviously. I actually don't know. We haven't talked about it yet.
So a lot of the stuff that I'm starting to do now is like I'm just now actually starting to put like a digital footprint behind everything I do, because a lot of things I do is just local people that I know that needed help, local things that are going on that I just somehow happened to stumble across. Somebody mentioned it, and I've just reached a point where I'm struggling to get people this information, because I feel like I can talk to you, I can talk to even Creighton, because I don't know how politically involved or informed you are, but I can tell you're definitely more politically informed than I would say than the average person. It's just hard presenting people information, because you can have these discussions and things, and I immediately.
Well, what are you trying to do? What's your goal right now?
Mainly, my goal is to let people become more aware of the fact that they can get involved in things like they're
locally.
Exactly, okay. Locally more than anything. I recently became third chair of the local Lancaster Democratic Party.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And my main goal.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's literally hilarious, because I just showed up. I showed up.
You were like, "Yo, can I be third chair?" And they were like looking around. There's no one else. They're like, "Fucking bro, yeah, you kidding me? Look at your beard. Come be our friend."
It was even worse than that. I literally went in there because I was just like, you know what? I just want to come in here and tell these guys, you guys kind of suck. Like, you guys are just terrible.
The Democratic Party, the local Democratic Party.
The local Democratic Party. I was just like, you guys just kind of suck. I went to that meeting, and all they did was spout a bunch of information. And at one point, they were like, any questions? And I was like, do you guys realize that I'm the only person here under the age of 40?
Yeah.
Was a lot of people there?
No, dude, there was 30 people. And they were all above the age of 50, and most of them were white with a handful of black people. There was no Latinos, no Asians, no young people. And
nothing that really represents the demographic.
Exactly. I was like, man, 90% of the people I know are part of these communities, live in these areas that are more represented by people of color, Latinos and stuff like that. Like, all the neighborhoods I grew up in, I moved there because my family knew people who were around them. So it's always these communities of people, and I was like, not a single one of these people are represented. And I just remember telling them a lot of the people that I know, my friends, are not going to vote Democrats just because they're they're not doing anything. I don't really care about it, and Trump's kind of funny. Who else is going up there just being you know what? I think they're all gay, and and I'm right.
The argument that I've been seeing parroted the most is and okay, this is I don't want to look again. This is a more politically charged episode, so I'm gonna start this with the caveat.
Just go hardcore on it.
Listen, I'm gonna start this with the shut up. I'm gonna start this with the caveat of I don't really side with either political party heavily. I would say that 10 years ago, if you had explained the parameters of the guidelines of the Democratic Party and the guidelines of the Republican Party 10 years ago, I probably would have been considered way more Democratic. Now I would probably be considered more Republican. I don't consider myself, and never really have considered myself either. There was definitely a time where I was like, I'm probably a Democrat, but I don't know. And now more than ever, I don't think I'm either. I'm just a guy, dude. I'm just floating. I'm a leaf in the breeze, man. And but right now, the thing that I see parroted the most is that people are siding with the Republican Party and Trump and the people that he has. The people that will try to defend themselves, like I'm doing, before giving their actual opinions, will say, I voted for Trump because of the people behind him right now. That's everyone. A lot of people are saying that, and a lot of them are saying because those people can actually get up and say words that sound good. Like, people can't articulate the fact that these guys, the J.D. Vances of the world and the Viveks and the Tulsi Gabbards, actually know what they're talking about. They actually have retained the knowledge, and they are actively trying to make a difference. That's what I love him or hate him, Trump is a lunatic, and he is very funny. I don't care what anyone says. He is hilarious. He's cognitively still very much there at 78, which is impressive, period. I don't care. Take politics out of it. I know a lot of 78-year-olds. Only a couple of them can keep up. And he very clearly can keep up, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
He sounds better than us sometimes.
I listen
and we're
to
fucking 27.
Dude, he went on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. He didn't get up to pee. He didn't take a sip of water, and the man talked for 3 hours straight.
And just left.
He might have said a couple crazy things, but he said a lot of very measured and very calculated, very obviously, well-intentioned things. And I think that won a lot of people over, and a lot of people saw him as a guy, not the guy. You know what I mean? And, all that is to say, this thing that is parroted right now is there's no one on the left that anyone can relate to. There's nobody that seems like a human being. Right now, between Trump, between J.D. Vance, between Vivek, between Tulsi. For me, it's really J.D. and Tulsi. I don't know a ton about Vivek. He seems intelligent, but I don't agree with a couple things he said.
What about Cash?
I don't know anything really about Cash. I haven't seen a lot, but Tulsi Gabbard, I've been a fan of Tulsi Gabbard since she ran back 2 elections ago. And J.D. I have grown to like because of how empathetic he is with both sides of whatever issue he's talking about. Like, he makes it very clear that, like, there's an issue at hand, and whether he agrees or disagrees with one side, the side he disagrees with, he always is giving the perspective of, I understand the issue they're dealing with, and we need to both work to fix that. And that is, to me, the most unifying type of mindset is, regardless of if you're a Republican or Democrat, you need to help. If you're a Republican, you need to help Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, you need to help Republicans, because guess what? We're all in fucking America.
Right.
Like, we need to help each other. If I consider myself a Republican, and Alejandro obviously considers himself a Democrat, every time I see him, I give him a hug because we're boys. I don't give a fuck if we, we might have a different opinion on gun rights or abortion. We're still boys. We talk about fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, we're buddies. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like,
we're supposed to... some wild shit about Yu-Gi-Oh! You'd be like...
Yeah. If he changes his mind, if his tune changes with Charizard, we're going to have a fucking issue. But,
you already said something about Bulbasaur, and that was like, okay, we might have to talk about that. That's like behind the scenes,
Yeah.
But honestly, that's where
we started on Vine with, okay?
That's where I started to get in a big issue is, like, I never wanted to start because I was like, I'm not really a Democrat. I'm not really a Republican. I can agree and disagree with both sides on a bunch of different issues. But at the moment, I just cannot relate to Republicans, especially because, like you said, Trump they saw as a guy.
Yeah.
And I think, J.D. Vance was definitely, I thought it was a bad pick at first, but then, like you said, you heard him speak and you're like, I can definitely see how the older people can find him more appealing. I can definitely see how he's empathetic to, like you said, both sides. Even he's like, even though I disagree, here's my concession. It definitely takes you back to a little bit of old school politics.
Yeah.
Something that we lost. Like, you can even see, like, old debates that's not even too long ago from when we were, like, kids, and they'll be on there and, like, even though I disagree with my opponent, he's still a great guy. Yeah. Even though I disagree with my opponent, I still respect him and his family.
That's what the whole J.D. Vance debate was. It was just him and Tim Walz going, like, yeah, that guy's got a good point. Like, the whole time.
McCain would not jump on the whole, like, Barack wasn't born here thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
McCain,
he thought it was a childish and, like,
right.
And he, like, people were trying
dishonorable
to get
endeavor.
him to, like, he's not born here, right? And McCain's like, that's fucking
that's a
stupid,
crazy assumption, and we should treat this guy as the political, political adversary that he is, but not turn him into a legitimate criminal. That's not what we're trying to say.
But that's such a hard line for me because, like, I just had such a hard time starting because I was like, I can't really pick a side, but I knew I wasn't gonna ride with the Republicans because neither side. There's definitely a lot of opinions I have that either side is gonna be like, okay, we definitely don't agree with that. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that people got to get cool with a lot of things before I can actually run.
I think. Let me think about how I'm going to say this real fast. I think the biggest issue, for me personally, is that both, like, pick the main big giant things right now, right? Like, the people that divide the heaviest, it's abortion, it's guns, it's religion, it's gay rights, it's, pick all these things. Both sides, most intelligent people on both sides make very good arguments. And so the issue is, there is not a definitive correct side on either issue. Locally, there can be... I'm reading a book right now called David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a great book. And in this book, he's talking about how there's something called relative... Oh, God, it's in fucking... It's a situation that happens in colleges. It's relative blah, blah, blah theory about how something can seem disastrous and difficult for you based on who you're surrounded by, but like on paper it should not be an issue at all. And in this specific example, there's a girl named Caroline Sachs, who's not a real person. That's like a name he creates for the real person because she didn't want her name to be known. Who's going to Harvard, and she wants to be a scientist. Or not Harvard, Brown. She wants to be a scientist. She goes to Brown, she takes organic chemistry, she starts getting fucked up in organic chemistry. She just has no chance. She's not passing to the level of satisfaction she wants. And she's making a B. Like, she's doing okay.
Right.
But for her, having been the kid in school, making, the valedictorian, number one in her class, blah, 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 all of a sudden you go to Brown, you're making a B, you feel like you are so failing so hard.
The first B in your life.
First B in your life. She felt like she was getting obliterated when in reality she's totally still on a trajectory where she could go and do whatever she wants in life by passing organic chemistry with a B. Passing. She's going to pass the class. Right. She dropped out. She ends up dropping out and just not even focused. Like, science was her thing. It was the thing she wanted more than anything in the world, was to be a scientist. And she, drops out. And he compares that to the Impressionist painters of the 1800s in France. In France, the Impressionists were this group of people who would all paint like each other, paint together, be in a big room. They'd sit at a cafe, they'd drink coffee, talk shit. They were like emotionally supportive of each other. And back then, there was a building, an art show called the Salon. The Salon was the number one art show on the planet, the creme de la creme. If your painting hung at eye level at the Salon, you fucking made it, bro. Right. And these guys would submit like 3 or 4 canvases every year to the Salon, and every once in a while, one of theirs would be at like the fucking 4 stories up ceiling level area, which was basically like, go fuck yourself to those painters. And even that was almost prestigious enough. Well, these guys, they decided, why are we going to be a little fish in a big pond when we could be the big fish in a little pond? So they grab all their work together, and they open their own fucking art show, and they start showing it to the public. The Impressionists right now, their artwork, the 160 pieces that at one point hung in this one room that they opened, together right now would be worth over $1 billion. Like, they became some of the biggest artists on the planet. Their artwork is hanging in every major art museum on the planet right now because they stood their ground and opened a new pond. The Caroline Sachs of the world get scared because the Ivy Leagues run this prestigious organization. And if you put yourself in the mindset and in the field with the number ones in the world and you're just making a B, you feel like this idiot. And right now in politics, there's not a right answer. There's not a wrong answer. There's nothing but nuance and different situations. In Lancaster, South Carolina, being a Republican is waking up happy, going out in the sun, going to the coffee shop, going to Walmart, going to the movies. You drive up to Indian Land, you're like, ooh, blue hair. And you come home and you chill out, and that's like a happy life. And if you're in the city, it's the flip side if you have that mentality. If you have a different mentality, you wake up, you do the same things. Like, if you do the things on paper, people are living the same life with different mentalities, living a happy life in different places. But if you just flip those people's scripts and you put them in a different spot, all of a sudden they're having a miserable time because they can't get away from the fact that, like, they, air quotes, I'm doing air quotes, listeners, air quotes, they're living in the wrong place, surrounded by the wrong scary people.
Surrounded by the enemy.
Surrounded by the enemy in the area. And in reality, like, every day, if I woke up and I texted Alejandro and I was like, hey, let's meet up at the Greenway and let's walk from Forest Hills to the high school. Let's walk from the high school over to fucking 5 Grams. Let's grab a bagel. Let's grab a coffee, and we're going to talk some shit. And then we're going to go back to our cars, and we're going to go about our day. We might agree. We might disagree. We might just talk about fucking Pokemon. But, like, we could totally live in harmony, even though we might have different ideas. Me and Creighton's one of my best friends on the planet. we had a conversation where I annihilated him and talked mad shit about how he's not a real movie guy. And he didn't even argue with me.
I didn't flinch.
He didn't even
because
flinch.
Because I'm that DC guy.
He knows that he's that guy for the things he loves. But he tried to have this argument with me about like about how Oppenheimer is not the most watchable movie in the world. And I was like, you're just being absurd and silly. And it was that easy for me to say, you're wrong, I'm right. And both of us go, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is honestly one of those arguments that there's no reason to have the argument because he's not in that field of nerdom as I am, and I'm not in the field of DC. Like when he talks Superman, I let him because I have nothing to say, and that's okay. But if you go entertainment and you pull entertainment out of the words on the paper and you turn it into Democrat Republican, all of a sudden everyone's losing their. To quote the Joker, everyone's losing their mind. Like no one can like relax and have these conversations and understand. Like okay, I'm not.
But a lot
supposed
of
to have this conversation.
Too. Like,
yes, but the problem is that they're using
an echo chamber. You know what I mean?
Echo chambers are their own issue. Like politics, they're a problem, but echo chambers are a problem anyway. That's where you get racism. That's where you get all these things because nobody has the depth to like dive into other pools of thought and like forget about politics. That's just echo chambers are a problem regardless. You need to open your field of view. You need to open your mind. You need to like. Have conversations with new people. You need to go new places. You need to do different things because otherwise you're going to stay in the same place forever. Politically, echo chambers are bad, sure, but echo chambers are bad anyway.
Yeah, echo chambers are the main reason I actually started getting more involved in local stuff because I was like, I like getting my news from all over the place. Like I'm watching Fox News, I'm watching all of it.
I follow the crazy motherfuckers on the right and the left, and all the people in the middle. I try and I want to see.
Right, I want to
see the perspective that these people are talking about that I never see. Yeah. So every time someone's like, "I can't believe all these people are saying this," I'm like, "Who's saying that?" Exactly. I want to show me, and then I go find those people. I'm like, I gotta follow this crazy. I gotta see what this bitch thinks about the fucking Star Wars when the next movie comes out. Like I need to know all these things.
And for me, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I found a lot of them online. I'm trying to find these people in real life now. Like I'm ready to have this conversation in real life.
Talk to them and have them on.
Exactly.
My favorite thing to do is talk to an old racist white person about how cool Kendrick is. and I explain the beef, carefully and to my extent of knowledge. I don't know a ton, but I know enough where I can be like
breaking it down for us was so crazy.
Awesome. It was so
That's
fun.
My favorite. Like you can go back like 2 or 3 episodes from this one. And
for me,
there was like a 15-minute chunk where he just goes like 20 years of rap history and like the cultural impact.
Well, I do that with Killer Mike. I've been explaining Killer Mike to old like racist white people lately. It is so funny because they're like, "Oh, okay." Reformed Christian guy, owning this version of rap in this society and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I kind of like this Killer Mike. They have no idea who it is. They've never heard a song. And like, I just take this like abstract thing and I just like throw it at these guys and let them kind of tackle it. let them just figure it out themselves.
You want to have them on, like you.
Yeah, I do want to just have local people on conversations, especially because you can definitely find a lot of the racist people out there. They find me a lot of the times. They're always on the lookout, and so when they see me, I'm like, okay, maybe that's a guy I can talk to. And I worked like at a public gym at Planet Fitness, and the amount of people we have news playing 24/7. They play fucking CNN next to Fox News, directly next to each other.
Great.
And a lot of the times, like some old people will come up there and they're like, "Can you believe this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like it's right there.
It's a problem
all the time. It's been happening for years.
This is what they said about the beatniks in the fucking 60s. Like,
my
what do you want
journey
from us?
with like politics is, I feel like when I graduated high school, I was very much left, and then like the 2016 election happened.
It's like every young person.
Yeah, well, and then like at the
left.
time, like I was listening because for years I had watched ABC News. I had watched because that's the field I wanted to go into. I wanted to do broadcast journalism. Yeah. So I was watching because I wanted to do that one day. And just watching, like, when Clinton lost, I was really... I mean, I wasn't, like, upset because I was like, historically speaking, we'll probably be fine. But, like, well, but I was a little concerned because I was like, well, what's he going to do? And then, like, what really, I think, kind of, like, made me kind of step back and realize, like, how it's serious, but it's not, like, affect your everyday life serious, usually, depending on what's going on. Is the John Mulaney special where he was like talking about it's like letting a horse loose in a hospital when they were traveling. And I was like, He's not wrong. And then...
Well, okay.
What?
Go ahead. No, okay.
Well, with that first term.
Yeah,
this term's been a whole other beast.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll get to that. I'm getting there. So, then 2020 happens. And I became disenfranchised with the left when Sanders wasn't the nominee.
Yeah.
Because he should have been. Like, if he wasn't in... He should have been in 16, too. Like, I've kind of opened my eyes to that over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And when they put Biden up there, I was like, well, this party just does not reflect...
For me, it was less... Bernie.
Not just me, but, like, the people that I have talked to and that really, like, are riding for this guy. Mm-hmm. And they're pushing this other guy up there. And I was like... And then Trump starts talking about, like, he's, like, you know, a puppet candidate and this and that. And there I was like, he's not, like, you know, 100% wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, though, that it was hard for me to, like, officially put my name behind the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. Because I'm just, like, left. I'm still left. I went hard left. And that's what I mean. Like, there's definitely a lot of things where people would disagree with me. Yeah. But I want to be in a position to where I'm just called the left. I'm not the radical left, the far left, the crazy left. Because it's just like, hey, a lot of these ideas, other places are doing it. You know?
Bipartisan left.
Right, exactly. And that's what
reasonable left.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. We keep... The left kept moving to the right, and the right just kept getting more right.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in the place where my beliefs are like the writers calling me terrorist and extremist, and then the left are like, well, they're a little much, you know. We definitely see what you're doing and we support you quietly, but when it comes to voting for it, we don't have your back.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like, all right, like you see that the Republicans have changed up how they reach out to people and they're getting more younger people involved. But like the thing people forget about is like the Republicans can be kind of weird when they get like, you know, well, really weird actually when they get to too much power.
Well, that's where I think the issue comes is like we've gone so
both
far
sides are
right.
that,
no,
100%.
Every time one side has so much power, it gets a little too crazy. The people that
voted in the last two elections don't remember what it was like when Bush was president. Like they weren't, you know what I mean? The younger people.
There's a big wave of them, but
and like it's not. He's not on the same level as Trump. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I mean, there were things that like he would say like weird shit sometimes, and people would be like. Yeah, a lot of the time. And then people would be like, yeah.
I wish he could read me stories to go to sleep. Not that he made like actual stories, just like...
George Bush?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just one time I was in high school and I was just like, just go on, please.
Dude, whenever that guy sampled him talking about the, like the saying that's in Texas or whatever, like, fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me once. Fool me twice. Can't get fooled again in.
Can't get fooled again.
Dude, there's some it's a hip hop artist that sampled that song, like that bit, and then made a whole song about it.
Yeah, that J. Cole song.
Yeah, J. Cole. Yeah, we're not. Liam's not here. He would automatically be like, "You're talking about J. Cole," because like me and him are like the same in that we listen to music and we're like, "Oh, this sounds good."
I like the sounds in my ears currently.
Yeah. We're not going to find out any more about the artist. We just know that's that song we like.
I don't see how some people have issues with stuff like that, where they're like, "What? That has culture? Yeah, I'm good. I actually don't want that."
Well, it's funny because like everything has that. Like if you eat a really good dish at a restaurant, there's some nerd out there who's like, you have no idea how that dish was even founded, do you? Yeah. Like that.
You don't know
that
where
whole
the
cultural
seeds that came from that tree
it's just
that
the popular
dish was harvested from.
And
the popular ones are like, you know, movies and music and TV and the big things in entertainment. But then you have the extra nerds who are like, you know how that plate, you know, who figured out how to make that plate like that. Like those, there's culture in everything.
Like if you show me a picture of Superman, I'm pretty good at telling you who drew it.
Exactly. Yeah, like we're all nerds in our own thing that we're nerds about. But with politics in particular, you know, it gets hard because you can be a giant fan of one. Like for me, it's really hard because like I'm a fan of comedy, I'm a fan of film, and right now, comedians and people in film are not on the same side. And traditionally, they've usually been pretty close. Yeah. And right now, comedians are more right.
They've ever been from each other.
I was going to say, comedians are more right than they've ever been in terms of, like, the big ones are all very reasonable, sound great, have really solid opinions. And really, all it's turned out is all of them are like, yeah, gay and trans rights are really important. Abortion is definitely the girl's choice. and for some reason the left is losing their minds and can't figure out that everyone's kind of on board with that now, and like want to like be mad at all the wrong things. And because of that, they're all becoming way farther. It's that the meme is that guy who's standing on the line. You've got the left who are blue on the left, the right are red on the right, and the guy in the middle goes like, well, I think both sides have a good point on this issue, and the fucking Democrats just shove them to the side. The Republican guy catches them. He's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And the Blues guy's like, "Why are you on their side?" Like that's kind of the idea that has been with a lot of the people's, who are switching to the right, who've been left. People like me, who I would like. That's probably where I fall right now. Like, if you really got all the issues in line and figured out who's for what, I'm for these things. I'm probably more on the right than I've ever been. But I don't like that. Because it doesn't, I don't feel like that. Yeah. But it's where I probably stand, and it's the people that are nicest to me. Granted, I'm a 29-year-old white dude in South Carolina. So it's there's definitely a cultural bias there.
Right. So that's definitely like a big part of why I also want to talk to people, because I am Mexican,
What?
You're right. Big shocker.
Whoa.
So a lot.
This whole time I thought you were Indian.
I talked to some of these like racist people. I was a manager at Advanced Auto Parts and Battery, so that alone was super fun. We'd have a farmer who only talks to a person once a month,
and they have like they have like their own language that they're using.
Right.
They're like,
dude, that's why I got so upset at some people who were like, I couldn't even understand Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl. I'm like, and then immediately listen to JFK.
Yeah, literally.
I'm like, listen, like. That blew my mind too. I was like, okay, all right, I get he's rapping fast, but you can cut on captions.
Right.
Also, like, don't fucking pretend like you understand every fucking Nickelback song.
Right.
They'll be sitting there going,
let me talk to your pawpaw real quick. Let me let him
Well, I asked, they said that, and I said, well, can you name the first, 10 words of Thunderstruck? Do you know the lines? And then these old men from the fucking, who grew up in the 70s and 80s were like, fuck.
Yeah.
All they know is Thunderstruck. They don't know. I was caught in the middle of a railroad track. They never looked it up. They never actually knew what the words were.
You can get us copyright stuff.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a fan,
I'm kidding, but not really. Like a little more than 2 more seconds.
I know. If you enjoy the music and you actually like me, I like to play music. So I look up the lyrics because I want to say it right.
Right.
So I know some of them. And these guys were like, I've never actually learned the lyrics to Thunderstruck. I just know the sounds and I like it. And they're over, like you said, they're complaining about Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Everyone I know, it's either that was the best halftime show they've ever seen or the worst. There's no in between. It's unreal. To me, it was my favorite. I loved it. It was one of the greatest ones I've ever seen.
I think the whole show was amazing, but the choreography...
it was cinema. It was cinema.
It's amazing that they were able to put that together and do it the way they did it. It's incredible.
At the speed at which they made it.
This also comes with the cultural difference because I'm not a huge football guy.
Yeah.
Just because I'm Mexican. You
like the other football.
Exactly. I like football.
I went to the home opener for Charlotte FC Saturday.
Oh yeah?
Bro. Fucking unbelievable. 50,000 people. We won 2-0. The place was in rapture. It got crazy, bro.
2-0? Hell yeah.
Yeah, we won. It was unbelievable.
Everyone I've ever been to, maybe either tied or they lost. So
yeah, he's had a terrible time.
I'm really excited.
He's like the bad luck charm.
But everyone, I remember seeing a bunch of stuff about Kendrick Lamar, and I was like, okay, I can go ahead and turn the TV on and I can watch it. And I was like, you know what? No. I'll just watch it, clips of it later. Yeah. All of my friends have also seen it because at the end of the day, I was like, I don't really care. I prefer to listen to the album. I prefer to listen to it how he wanted it to come out, how everyone to listen to it. Yeah. That's what I would prefer to listen to, especially because I'm a big fan of rock music, alternative music. So a lot of times when the final mix, they purposely did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he was able to come out and do it the way he did it because it really felt like he put his own spin on it. You know what I mean? Just like what you're talking about, he's letting you in the albums, he's recorded it and edited it in a way he's wanting to see you, but or wanting you to see it. But with this, he got to play around with okay, how can I present this in a way that's live, in a way that I want you to see it? And I mean, granted, he's a performer, so it's not like it's anything new, but it's on a national stage that gets to introduce people to him and how his art, how he presents his art.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite halftime show for sure, but I come from, like, with me and my friend group, we'd probably be like, name your top 5 favorite halftime shows.
Yeah,
like, I can name 3.
I remember that people were on it a couple times.
And one of them, I think there was like a boob or something. I think that one was in it.
Yeah.
That's my second.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think that one was cool. You know.
Actually, you know what, Janet? Higher than Kendrick.
But yeah, we've gotten to a point where I think that
The Katy Perry one was kind of fire.
it was.
She came out of a dragon on that one. Right?
Yeah.
Katy Perry in general, just when it comes to how she wants to show things, is amazing. It's just a lot going on.
She's a class act performer.
She makes me feel like I'm a child again, just looking at shapes and colors. And I'm like,
Exactly.
yes, it's perfect.
And I think that we've strayed from that. There's like this. You see it in movies. You see it in like, you know, the popular things of time for the last decade have all been fucking gray and brown and like dull colors, not a lot of love. And then like, you know, you see it every year. There's like the one thing. Like this year was like Flow or The Wild Robot. Just like they're like, boom, we need life to be pretty for a second.
Exactly.
Everybody like, let's be pretty for a second. And then, you know, it's this awesome big moment. But then it just like it flounders away. And I think that we've kind of lost our love for like positive expression. Everyone wants to be mad because we're humans. We're creatures of conflict.
Right.
We crave it.
It's
we
the
need it. We have to
mother-
build problems to solve because there's not a more first world issue on the planet than some of the stuff that we are considering political issues right now.
Yeah.
Like there are countries that don't have enough food. There are citizens in places that are literally waking up hungry. They're waking up from sleep because of how hungry their body is telling them they are. And we are at such a level of abundance here that we're having the issues that we're having in the first place.
Yeah.
I feel like once you get to the point where like trans or gay rights are even at the top of the list,
Right.
we have reached such a level of
We're doing success.
Yeah, successfully. I'm saying that, like, you know, America did it. We like, bro, in 250 years, we kind of fucking aced the test. Like, we got to such a ridiculous. And granted, it's because of more than anything our military.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, like there's a reason, and it's called the fucking atom bomb. We got to we won a bunch of wars and like kind of fucked everybody's shit up for a long time. And you know that's you know historically that's how empires kind of rise. They become the strongest. And then historically, like this happens. Like we get to the point where we run out of problems and we start to crumble from within. And granted, hopefully, for the first time in history, we can learn from history and not have it happen again,
right?
And overcome it.
It doesn't reset all over again.
Yeah, and it doesn't just reset. And hopefully, if Alim was here, he'd be mad at me for even having this opinion. But in my opinion, it's going to be because of the lunatic. To be fair, that like Elon is. Because you gotta press these crazy guys to let them be the crazy part of who they are, so that we can get to space.
Ooh,
we gotta get to space.
Brought up Elon. I got opinions.
Elon is my god. He's
a tricky biscuit.
Before you bring up Elon,
Sorry,
I just did want to mention like that extreme. I think is part of the issue that. Again, the left has just been constantly being pushed to the right, and now we've gotten to the point where the right is focusing on these like extremely niche, extremely like problems that, like you said, don't really harm the average person. And the only way to counter that is for them to be on the left to also be like, well, you also have these extreme opinions, and we're like, okay, let's leave these extreme opinions to the side and let's talk about more of the things that we have.
Let's be constructive about the things that actually affect everyone's day-to-day life.
Right. And
like the fact that eggs are $7 all of a sudden.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
like shit's crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge problem I see on the left because, again, I'm pretty far left, and so even the lefts that are supposed to be on my side, the Democrats are supposed to be on my side, they're still separating themselves from where I want to be. Yeah. So that's why my goal is to talk to these people, communicate with these people, to express my point of view with them. Like, there's not a single person in Lancaster that I've had and sat down and been like, look, do you genuinely want to have a conversation about why things are? Like, if you want to have a political conversation, let's have it. Like I said, I worked at Advance, and one of my assistant managers, he was like, dude, I've been Republican my whole life. Fuck this, fuck that. And it was when Trump was in office, and we had a lot of conversations and just talking about immigration in general, especially because it's a big topic in this election too.
Yeah.
And I was like, he asked about my parents and people I know in my family, and I was like, I don't really talk about stuff like that just because it can be easily weaponized.
Yeah.
And it's not super important to what we're having a conversation about.
We're at work. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? Let's have this conversation. I was like, do you know what like the currency exchange rate even is? And he was like, no, I have no idea. Well, right now, $1 here is 20 pesos in Mexico.
Yeah.
My aunt works at a lime factory, which like 70% of the people in her town work at, to make 800 pesos a week. And that's 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's $40, like 40, 50 bucks. And I'm like, look, I understand that there definitely should be other ways of getting into the country in general other than the illegal ways. But even the people who come here illegally, there's no reason, I feel, to treat them as an enemy, to treat them as dangerous.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the actual crime statistics, what those look like, who's actually committing the crimes and whatnot. And people hate that stuff. That's like the problem that I have, because they'll immediately be like, immigrants are causing this crime, and I'm like, here's the stats.
Villainizing them unnecessarily.
That's that's one of those main issues that like is right there in the center more than any other issue. That's one of the issues we need to be talking about more than anything. And it, like you say, it's getting weaponized by people who want to just say, well, they don't think that gay people are okay, so that's a problem. Or, well, they don't think guns are okay, so that's a problem. Like, they pick one side of, the whole group to villainize them and don't talk about the fact that we need to be talking about this very one actual important issue. Or two, or,
Right.
That is nuance. But immigration in particular is one of the actual issues we need to be talking about. The economy is one of the issues we need to be talking about.
Right.
We don't need to be talking about people's rights. We've been there, we've done that. It's tired. Like, people have their opinions. Rights are on paper. And if we keep keeping them at the front line and taking the rights away and giving the rights back and taking the rights away and giving the rights back, we're never going to be able to handle the actual real issues that are happening.
Yeah.
And that's...
Yeah, people they get concentrated on the wrong thing. Because even, like, when they're voting for stuff here in Lancaster, like, we had a whole money for the schools for Lancaster. That money that they voted on would have directly gone to Lancaster High School. A lot of it would have gone to Andrew Jackson, but it would have helped smaller communities. It would have not helped Indian Land as much. Like, some of the money still goes to Indian Land, but it would have helped a lot of people down here. And then the people here who complain about how dirty the city is, how crappy the roads are and all this stuff, voted against this stuff. And you're like, hey, like, I understand there's a give and take there.
Well, I think with that in particular, I think you'll see in the primaries that people will switch on that. And I think that it's because of, like, like right now with Elon being in and handling the whole USAID, like, a lot of that money was going to ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
And I think that that's leaving a bad taste in the smallest of communities' mouths, and that's why we voted against stuff like that. But I bet you, after just these 2 years, after all the money that he's already shown, like, obviously going to crazy places, the amount of money going to NGOs that have no names on them is terrifying to me. Like,
100%.
And the fact, I think, after fucking already in a month it's been crazy, but in 6 months, in a year, we're going to get to the primaries and everyone's going to be like, yeah, now that there's clearly a pathway for this money to be on paper publicly where everyone can see where it's being diverted, people will be like, yeah, let's do it. Cool, because we know where the money's going.
So you think Elon is the guy to do that? You think Elon is the person who's going to get us there?
I don't think he's the sole guy. I think the people that he represents are the ones, because he's, everyone thinks that he's the guy with the clipboard doing all this. They are giving the Department of
Government Efficiency.
Well, yes, but I mean, they're not actually like clicking do it. They're giving like a suggestion, and the department that's in charge actually goes through with it.
Right.
He's not making decisions. He's giving advice.
He wants to.
Yeah, he wants to, but he's not. And but I don't think he cares. He has too much on his plate. Look, the people that are worried about him getting money, like trying to like make more money, I'm like, bro, the guy, he's the richest guy on the planet. He wants to go to space. Like, let this autist do his autist shit. Like, he is simply outlining the problems with where money has been going, and that, to me, is...
I'm okay with the idea of it. I don't disagree with the idea of it, but it's the execution of the idea that I am not super a fan of. Like,
what is the execution?
Clinton did a similar thing in the 90s with doing the whole government thing. He did have a mass firing, But what part of he did is he brought all the information to Congress, and then they made a decision off of it.
Yeah.
Musk just kind of goes in and I mean, I know I'm saying Musk. I know it's not him. It's his people, whatever. They're going to just basically, cut funding and then...
No, they're not. No, they're suggesting. And then the departments who actually do it are
what happens
going
with all
through
these
with
mass firings and all the people like USA? I mean, I'm
not saying it's not giving, it's not actually like happening because of what he's saying, but he's not like, air quotes, he's not doing it. He's not the one flipping the lever. He is giving the advice.
Right, but what I'm saying is like I think that there's a better way to do it than how he's doing it.
Especially because I see, this is why I like having conversations, because Creighton, again, is like the average person. Again, he's definitely not as politically
charged.
Right.
Or aware, I guess.
I pulled out of a lot of it because...
Sometimes you have to. That's
sometimes it like
fair.
annihilates
That's what
I
need to understand more than anything. Like, it's fair to take a step back and be like, hey, this is a lot. It's because it's not up to every single person to join the revolution.
It's like people are bath bombs. If you pour water, it starts to dissolve. If people get too politically charged, you start to lose who you are.
Exactly.
And you got to pull yourself back.
My life isn't politics. But I will be honest with you guys. Yeah. Like, 2020, I didn't like Biden. And so I voted for Trump.
Never liked him.
24 comes along, and Biden drops out, and they put Kamala up there. And I'm like, we should have had a primary. We should have had some way to get somebody up there that we,
well, what you said earlier,
like you have a choice. I know people voted for Biden and Harris.
Yeah.
But, Harris being up there and then Tim Walz come in, I wasn't a huge fan, so I ended up voting for Trump again.
Well, what you said earlier about Bernie, that was me, but with Tulsi. Because Bernie,
Tulsi could have done it, too. Tulsi, when she was in the primary back in 2020, Tulsi would have been great too. I would have voted for her.
Well, we should have had the opportunity, but the problem is that the DNC,
they pushed her out, dude.
The DNC pushes her out. Mm-hmm. She called Kamala out on how terrible of a district attorney
Kamala
she was.
Dropped out a week later. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I know. But Tulsi also was cut from the screen. They stopped letting her go up. Yeah, they blackballed, and we could have had an opportunity to have Tulsi up there instead. This could have gone a whole nother direction.
I want to say all that up there comes with the caveat with Trump of part of my thoughts on Trump is that I think that on an international level, that our enemies are not, well, enemies is a strong word. Our other nations respect him more than they respected Biden because they saw through the whole because it's basically like Weekend at Bernie's. You know what I mean? Especially
that's what it felt like.
But you genuinely feel like other nations respect Trump?
I don't know if they respect him for sure. Let me rephrase. I feel like that he's better at going in and doing some kind of deal or arrangement, whether or not that's the best for the American people. That's a whole different conversation.
I think he's very good at going in and putting his dick on the table and representing America. If we're having this compare and contrast, he's way better at it than Biden.
Oh, for sure.
I think he's better than Kamala. I think he's better than the people. We haven't had a Democrat worthy of the office in a long time, in my opinion.
Anybody that's left enough to be a good Democrat.
Exactly.
I definitely think, because I feel like Bernie Sanders would have gone a long way. I don't know if he could have done it.
I think he could have done it 8 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't think this time or last time
around.
I don't think last time either. I think he was too far gone last time.
But 16 for sure.
People
16
didn't
Bernie
want
Sanders, yeah.
Trump and Biden are carcasses, but one of them looks more like a carcass than the other one.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you would have put Bernie up there, you would have a similar situation.
Well,
yes.
But I guess where I'm going with all this is I felt like, especially after watching him on Rogan and watching Vance on Rogan and watching Tulsi Gabbard on Rogan, I mean, none of their people ever really went on Rogan. I mean, Harris didn't go. I mean, and I don't know. Joe says, "Hey, we tried to do it, but she backed out." And then
just pull Joe out of it. Pull Joe out.
Well,
pull Joe Rogan.
I'm just saying,
I know. I'm saying
something
different.
I'm saying,
hold on a second.
I don't know exactly what happened there, but that whole getting 3 hours of exposure to one person, and also who he was gonna have, who he has in his cabinet.
But
I don't know. It won me over.
But forget about that. If you pulled Joe Rogan out of the conversation, they couldn't go on any show for more than 20 or 30 minutes and represent their ideas and their policy. Like Kamala, 7 days before the election, an interviewer asked her what her opinion on what was it?
The economy.
The economy, or
it was
one of the big five.
Well, Joe's been doing a good job. And I'm going to keep doing whatever.
No. She didn't say that. She said, my policies are highlighted on the website. go there. She can't articulate
Yeah.
what it is that she's trying to
She's
represent.
definitely not a leader. That's the big issue. There's not been a single leader in the Democratic Party in a very, very long time.
Yes.
Anyone who can just sit there and have a conversation. And I feel like it's because, again, all the people who can do that are just viewed as too far left. The Democrats have to be some kind of...
We need a game changer. We need another Clinton or like somebody that's just like an absolute, like just
I think
Obama level talker.
Until you get a group of people. Like, because my goal is, I want to get involved in politics for sure. Like, I definitely want to get involved. I want to run for something at some point. But I don't want to be the only one on the ticket. Because at the end of the day, even if we get one Latino person in the 50 people that you vote for in Lancaster, that's still 1 out of 50.
It's building up a new generation of like people that can run and people that like are more of a reflection of like the people, the actual community instead of like
the amount of old people in there is just ridiculous.
There is one question I wanted to ask about that before you go on your thing. Sorry, I know I keep interrupting you, but like you guys have been talking a lot this whole time. I had so much I wanted to say. The people that were in there, was it like? Did it feel like a certain class of people? Like, 100%. Like, an upper or like a lower?
It's definitely
like
a lot more comfortable people. Like, I heard a lot of the background conversations because, again, I felt awkward in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were like, oh, yeah, I was going to go up to the lake house this weekend. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go vacation at the Malibu this weekend.
That's the other thing that kind of drove me to the other ways because I know these are rich assholes on the right. Right? But they aren't hiding that they're rich assholes.
God damn it, they're relatable.
But
exactly.
But that's the thing that I mean that I went there. I went in there and I was like, I heard all of it. Because I didn't speak to like the last 30 minutes of this thing. Because everybody was like talking and then they got to a point where like, any questions? And nobody was saying anything. So all of these people were just talking and I was like, wow, not a single one of you said anything that I could even get close to relating to.
Yeah.
And I told them that. Like, I literally just got up and said that. And they were like, that's the big issue. We don't know how to reach youth. We can't get the youth. And every single meeting I've gone afterwards, that's the only thing any Democrat talks about is we need to rely on the youth. We need to rely on the youth. And I'm like, look, you guys are going about this the wrong way. You guys are just talking about how you want to reach the youth. You guys don't do anything. If you were out in the community doing cleanups, doing these things, going on these podcasts, going on Joe Rogan, going to talk to Logan Paul, going to talk to
I'm glad you put us in that.
Theo
we are
Vaughn.
not there at all, but like I appreciate.
No, you guys definitely are. For sure, because like we're friends, but we don't hang out as often as I do with other friends.
Yeah.
And your guys' friends will listen to this stuff, and those friends are people I've never talked to. And even that is just enough to start a conversation with anybody. Like, it's genuinely, like, I started working in Lancaster at multiple different jobs in Lancaster, and now I have, me and my family have 3 businesses in Lancaster. So we meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, and I've gotten to know a lot of people in town. And, like, anywhere I go, I can recognize people. It's not that hard once you start communicating with people, getting in touch with more and more and more people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people who know me, that met me in these random places, would be like, he's a wonderful guy. I love talking to him. He's a good guy, but they don't know anything about my politics.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, I know the second I bring that up, it's going to ruin that relationship in one way. But the people that I've had those conversations with who are like super Republican, they always end up leaving the conversation with like, you know what, I will consider where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. I can definitely agree with a lot of things. Because at the end of the day, my biggest message that I tell people is Google is free.
Yeah.
Like, Google is just free. Anything you hear at any second, put it into Google.
Yeah.
Look it up. Don't just look up at the first article. Read 2 or 3. Investigate it. Because even, like, the fires right now in Myrtle Beach area or whatnot.
All over South Carolina.
Yeah.
Not just, like, everywhere.
It's crazy that happened.
Bowater had a
We
giant
take a week
fire.
off and
Yeah,
everybody catches on fire. So I think it's our fault.
Plus the humidity's gone.
There's people
no humidity.
you can see on Facebook, like, because I have these local businesses, I'm part of a lot of local community groups. And in those local community groups, a lot of people in there even like, this is fake, this is planned by the deep state. The
fires and stuff?
Yeah, 100%.
Of course.
They're
People
like,
are crazy.
They're like,
That's wild.
This is to set up China run 15-minute cities. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's crazy.
When in reality, somebody was probably smoking.
Right, exactly.
And, like, flipped a butt.
We kind of contribute to that too with our conspiracy theories. Not with this particular issue, but we have like in the past been like,
Oh, for sure.
But
look,
that's the thing with conspiracy theories, though. Like I told these people, if you genuinely feel like this is a conspiracy, look up where it's happening and just drive there.
Yeah.
You're either going to become a hero to your community. Best case scenario, you're like, look, I saw this on the woke media and I proved them wrong.
Well, like
worst case scenario, you learn something.
So here's with specifically conspiracy theories of the last 50 years. The craziest thing is that what used to be conspiracy theories, like the top 10. If you grab the top 10 conspiracy theories of the last half century, like 7 out of 10 have turned out to be right.
Right.
Yeah.
The other 3 are like kind of up for debate
And then
right now.
the last one's
wrong.
like everybody's.
Yeah, but here's my thing: all the new ones are only conspiracy theories now. They're so outlandish and ridiculous because no one's getting up and going to do stuff.
100%.
They're all sitting like we're sitting in this living room right now. If we weren't, more than likely, we'd be sitting at our house on our computer, on our phone, on our Xbox, on our TV. Maybe with our partner at
Dude, I'd
at,
be doing push-ups. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
sure. You sure would, I'm sure. By yourself, though. That's the idea. The idea is that you'd be alone on your phone,
100%.
going through all this stuff, not out in the world experiencing whatever real life is right now.
Justin
Dude,
did that shit.
my-
Remember when all the shit happened with Asheville? He was up there.
Who?
Justin.
When everything happened with what? Oh, with
Yeah,
Ashley. Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying.
You said it
he's
fast.
a great example of it because
Yeah, because he actually get Ritz also. They're people
Ritz
that get
too.
up and go
Yeah.
figure this shit out.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be a fun thing for people to know and make fun of me for the rest of my life, but I'm used to it. I didn't have a license until like June or July, and I didn't have a car till October, and I've been driving around for the first time at 28 going into 29 of my whole life.
I've known you for so long, and I did not know about this, but it just doesn't surprise me.
Is it, right? No, I get it. I lived that life. I lived the life of that guy.
That's hilarious.
But the thing
by the
is,
way. That's-
like, I've had like a fucking fourth wind intellectual awakening in the last like 5 or 6 months because I'm getting out and going and doing shit every day on my own without like a partner / plan to go do it. Because if I ever wanted to go anywhere and do anything, I had to be like, yo, Creighton, you doing anything tomorrow? Or like, Quentin, where are you doing Saturday? You want to go to the mall? Now I just fucking go do whatever I want. Yeah. And, I know to everyone in the world that's normal and crazy. But to me, or not crazy, normal and not crazy. For me, it's new and fresh and amazing. And like just getting up and going to the coffee shop every day is like the most fun thing in the world for me. I sit there and I write on my fucking journal. I read a book. I talk to the crazy 20-year-olds that work there. It's fun. It's a blast. I meet interesting people. I talk shit. I'm like in the community when for 30 years I've never been in the community and all of a sudden I am. And It's opened up this whole like sociological question mark in my head of like, have we been doing this? More than ever, more people our age than ever don't have driver's licenses in rural 100%. Areas. Forget about a city. It's normal to be 50 in a city with no driver's license. Yeah. You have the subway, you walk, you bike, you have the bus, you have the train, you have all these things.
People,
especially older people.
Like
never. There are people in New York who never had a way to get around because they didn't need it.
Because like they either like learned on like a farm or learned like just driving around their neighborhood.
But they had a car. They got around because it's the rural South and they don't whether they had a license or not they didn't give a fuck.
Right.
People our age with video games with these phones they had way less incentive to be motivated to go and do shit if they could get away with staying at home. And that's with me it was less that and more that I never had a real job. I always had this other thing.
Right.
And it was I was getting by. I was making my money. I was doing okay. I didn't need to get around. And the older I got and the more ridiculous it was just getting to the point it was like it was way too late and I was being lazy and procrastinating. And now that I've done it, like I have this fire inside me of all the things I could have a fire inside me for, is to take in more data. I've been reading more than ever in my life. I've been interacting with new people. I called my old college professor, my psychology professor, and just sat and had a conversation. I called him up through the fucking USCL directory and was like, yo, bro, can we just sit and talk? I just want to like have a conversation with somebody to like intellectually stimulate myself. And I'm trying to do it more. This is a great example of that. You being here, having the podcast again, having Creighton organize it so I don't know what's going on has helped me a lot because it's not like in the back of my head having to do it because that's just I need a fucking assistant. If I hit the lottery, I would literally just be like hire someone to like schedule my life so that I never know what's going on.
With that, dude, like that's again part of why I want to have these conversations because there's a big cultural difference there. Because like you said, it's definitely. there's like a side that's like embarrassing almost, where it's like you don't want to admit that you like this part of things that everyone does,
like
like being a part of the community.
Yeah. Okay.
Like because selfish plug, Red Rose Refreshments. I have a smoothie shop / coffee shop here in town.
Where is that? What?
Springdale Road. It's called Red Rose Refreshments here in Lancaster, South Carolina.
Hell yeah, you should have been plugging that from the get-go.
We sell smoothies, protein smoothies, cold pressed juice, milkshakes, and then a bunch of like Mexican street food.
Dude, we gotta go.
That sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah.
A little
Wait, where is it at?
Springdale Road, right?
You guys got sliced mango?
Yeah. Throughout the ad. I mean,
fuck yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
We do fresh, everything is fresh fruit, no sugars, no syrups.
Throw out the address, dude. If you want to. I mean, if you're comfortable with it.
We'll put it in the description.
If you want,
if you're not comfortable, I'm blanking completely on
it. He looked at me so hard, like, bro, I don't know what it is.
I know it's Springdale Road. That's about as far as I get.
Look, if anyone's actually in, they'll figure that out. That's all they really need.
Yeah, I'll get an address for you. We'll plug it in the description.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Anyway,
dude, that's sick.
Hold on.
But yeah, this culture about like a lot of like me personally, like, even with the driving.
Yeah,
I learned to drive at 11 years old.
Yeah,
most of my friends learned how to drive at 11 years old. Like we were driving up and down the street, and a lot of it came from the fact that if our parents didn't have licenses, if our uncles didn't have licenses, if our family members didn't have licenses, we would drive because if we got stopped by the police, they would just give us a ticket. But if my uncle got stopped, if my
he's going to jail,
they're going to jail, possibly deportation, all that stuff. So those are risks that we took, and I talk about that stuff not proudly and like, oh, I had to get away with stuff like this.
But as a way to let other people understand, like, the situation you came up in. Like, this is the reality of some people's, like, day-to-day life.
And all of my friends who've experienced this stuff are, for some reason, like, embarrassed about it. Like, embarrassed to admit that it's something they do. Like, I grew up in a trailer park.
Yeah.
Most of my friends did. That's how we became friends. We played soccer outside with each other, became friends, walked around the neighborhood, picked up more friends. And a lot of them are ashamed to admit that. And it's like, it's just part of what we grew up. It's part of what we've been. And it just comes from, like you said, everything is online. Everyone wants to make this persona. And it doesn't really matter when it comes to politics. Like, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis in that. If it sounds dumb, if it sounds nerdy, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's giving more information. I'll be like, here's the statistic, here's this fact. If you don't believe me, here's the link on so you can read it yourself, interpret the data, and do what you want with that. No, that's lame. That's dumb. I'm not going to waste my time to do that. I've literally sent videos of people breaking stuff down to people, and instead of even responding directly to me in a DM or in the text message or whatever way we're communicating, they would post, like, liberals getting mad when you tell them the truth on their stories. I'm like, can you just have the conversation with me, dude? Like,
I think that issue happens with me and my dad a lot. I love my dad. He sends me a lot of, like, politically charged videos. Here's the thing. No one wants to sit and watch an hour and a half video about some kind of politics that you're telling them, like, you need to watch this. Because now you have to not only watch it and take in the information, you have to do it under the microscope of, like you're under the microscope of someone who's not even in the room with you, and you have to figure out why they wanted you to watch it while you watch it. I tell them outright, I'm not watching anything you send me. I love you. When we see each other, talk about it with me.
Right.
Like, I don't want you to show me a video for 20 minutes like driving down the road. Like, I don't want to fucking try and pay attention to this thing and then try and keep in mind what's happening and then talk to you about it. How about you, in your own words, articulate to me the issue you think that there is, and we will dissect this issue. And my dad's my favorite person on the planet. I've never argued harder with anyone in my life than my father about the dumbest, most trivial bullshit. And it honestly has become one of my favorite things to do because of how mad he gets. And it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, that's so. My dad's Catholic. I was born that, so
it's
I'm
the
right
best.
there with
it's
you.
So fun. It's crazy. And, that has become a big issue with, I think, parents and their kids. But, like, aside from that, when people try to do it, like our friend Justin, he sends me and he sent my roommate
I was just going to say, Justin.
A 4-hour podcast. 4 hours he expected us to watch to talk about something that happens for 5 minutes
and then
at the
was
3 hour
ready
mark.
on Wednesday to talk about it.
And then on Wednesday he's like, did you watch that podcast? It's like, no, Justin.
Right,
I watched A Complete Unknown. Like, I didn't want
it's
to
like, look,
listen
I got
to Dan
the whole
Bongino
presentation
talk.
together.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want Dan
Look,
Bongino
this is
to
the most
explain the
organized guy that you have, like, we've ever
To a
met.
fault.
Yeah. I love Justin.
I love him too.
He's great.
How would you prefer then I present to you information like that? Because
like this, like
exactly
sitting and talking.
Sitting and talking.
Now, granted, we're all autistic. Some people,
And
look, to some people they need it on the
time.
newspaper. Some people need the podcast. Some people need the Twitter.
Yeah.
Like,
and we've all known each other for a long time.
I hate texting. I hate communicating
I'm the
in
same
that
way.
realm. If I'm going to make a post, that's a different thing. That's like, read it and absorb it. I don't need interaction. If you want to interact, go ahead. But like, I'm not doing this to open a dialogue with you and me.
Right.
I'm doing this to open a dialogue among people. If I want to talk to Alejandro, I'm going to text Alejandro, fucking call me. Let's meet up. Let's talk about this, because I'm not trying to like fucking... Like, I'm not trying to tonally dissect everything you said on text and understand, like, if it was ironic or not, because I can't tell. Dude, I've been a poker player for fucking 15 years. I read people. Yeah, like, I'm used to actually understanding what I'm seeing. I see the guy. I see what Creighton says. He says a thing.
I'm a silly goose.
He says words. He smirks. He's lying. He's not real. He's being ironic. I get it. He's sarcastic.
But how do I, again, then the issue comes to me is how do I get this personal with each individual person?
I think that this is it. Like, what you were talking about, going and interviewing people, like...
There's a reason that not one county in America flipped from Republican to Democrat this election, and more than ever flipped from Democrat to Republican, is because people like Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn or Lex Friedman
even Fragrant. They had him
Fragrant had Donald Trump, had J.D. Vance, had Vivek, had Tulsi, and for hours let them talk and explain their opinions and make them a relatable individual. Yeah. And at the very end of the day, agree or disagree, mathematically, if you make somebody relatable, you're going to like the person more, and you're going to be more inclined to vote for that person.
You sold us on you. I mean, like, you came in here talking. I mean,
we're a terrible example of that. We like Alejandro anyway.
Like, listen, I was removed. I've removed myself from politics ever since the 24 election because, like, you know even it wasn't that long ago. But, like, part of the reason that is because I feel like both sides are full of shit. And, like, even though initially I was won over with Trump through Rogan, there's always that caveat with him. Like, he presents a good idea, but then he'll say some wild shit about cats and dogs being eaten by, like, immigrants.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day...
Which is crazy. It's just like the plane thing that happened. Like, that helicopter hit that plane, he's like, all he had to do was go up there. Let's go up there and be like, I'm sorry,
this is a tragedy.
This is a tragedy. Our sympathies go out to the families. And then he does that, and he goes, but it was probably because of DEI. Like,
yeah, he had to blame it.
It's like, come on. Jesus.
He just can't help himself.
Yeah,
and a little part of me, part of me is like, I'm kind of happy he's that way because we need him to be a little crazy. Because it is funny. But like at the end of the day, you're right. Like, you should be the,
and then Musk is over here making bets with Zuckerberg like, hey, I bet I can go up there and do a Nazi salute. Not once, but twice.
Not what
that's definitely what happened.
It's definitely one of those, like... My heart can go out to a lot of... Like, Celine Dion performed My Heart Will Go On for years, and not close did she come to the realm of the hand.
That was a bad
But the thing is that, like, Tim Walz did, Kamala Harris did.
But those videos all
Trump did, all these guys did.
A lot of, like... Especially with Kamala, we're not going back. We're pointing back behind us. It's not that we're just pointing up.
Yeah. He did it twice!
Okay. So for a second, just for a brief moment to understand everybody's, like, let's take everyone's temperature. Is there any realm where you think that it really was out in the open, him trying to do a Nazi salute? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. I think,
You think that a Nazi is trying to represent...
No.
I think it was a bet.
That's the thing. It's not as a Nazi. He's not...
You think he's just being, like, shitty and funny? He thinks it's a silly thing
I think it was a bet, dude.
I am become meme.
Yeah. I think it was a bet.
He is that.
Okay.
He is.
Yeah. Maybe. Look, I could...
Oh!
That's the closest version of the argument I would ever take, because, like I've had this conversation with Aleem. I love him to death. He hates Elon Musk.
I also cannot stand the guy, genuinely.
Yeah, I understand. I understand the hate. He's a problematic human. But I've heard so many hours of him talking to people in such a controlled and very
that's even
intellectually
more reason to believe
charged.
he did it on purpose, though, because
that he's maybe just a silly genius who wants to go. Be crazy.
This is what happened for sure. He's sitting there. What's his name? Zuckerberg's right here, and then Bezos is right here, and he's like, "Hey guys, watch this."
You really think
like,
that's what he did?
Yeah, he's like, "I bet you, however many trillions of dollars that I'll go up there and do the Nazi salute." And Zuckerberg was like, "You can't do it twice," and he was like, "Bet."
Well, a lot of people.
It's distractions. It's definitely just if you were talking about this, we're not talking about the stuff that like matters.
And that's the other side.
Trump and them are great at that. And a great example of it being done on the opposite side is there was a Democratic senator, I can't remember what his name was, but he introduced a bill to where men would be punished for jacking off. Because ejaculation is strictly, it's not for pleasure, it's strictly for making children. So we should be implementing that to strengthen the family. And when it came out, everyone was like, "Can you believe how crazy this?" And it's like, I'm literally doing this to get the conversation
to stop
about
you from talking about us killing a bunch of people in Yemen.
Exactly. This is to get the attention from everything else. Yeah. And I feel like the Republicans have mastered that.
Oh yeah, well it's just like the
executive
orders.
Both sides have mastered
Dude
that.
was like shooting out executive orders like machine gun bullets. Like,
and a lot of them just didn't affect anybody. It's I definitely agree that both sides do it. But there's just the way the right in particular does it is...
Well, I used to think only the right did it until you start listening to the people who only find these... People who, like, take politics out of it. They don't side with either side. They're like, here's how both sides do these things. Open me up more than ever to, like, which side is telling the truth the most often. Which side is sticking to the fundamentals of the party the most often. And... just barely, statistically, it's the Republicans are, like, trying to stay in line with what they do, and the Democrats are lying the most. But when I say barely, I mean it's like 52-48. It's like, it's right down the fucking middle. But it seems, based on, because of entertainment, because of the famous people of the moment at any given time, usually you see the right being, air quotes, wrong more often because there's more people with influence that have that mentality. But if you just look at paper, both sides are equally... Look, Louis J. Gomez is a brilliant comedian, and his policy on politics in general is great. To him, all politics are fucking gay. And I don't mean, like, homosexual. I mean fucking gay, bro. Like, gay from 2004. Like, you land wrong on your skateboard, you skin your knee, and that shit's gay. Like, this shit is gay, bro. Politics are gay. I hate politics. I just don't like them. I can have a political discussion because someone who is just even slightly intellectually charged can talk about real problems and agree to disagree in a polite and measured way about anything. But politics has become this social problem on both sides instead of a constructive use of our resources to find the answers to problems.
But they know it, and they do it on purpose.
Like, again, that truly at the end of the day, it's these things. I'm holding a phone.
No.
If you click like on a tweet, it is directly incentivizing whatever the tweet says. And because of that, any politically charged tweet that is making ad revenue, anything that gets clicks, if someone puts an article about Donald Trump fucking hailing Hitler by accident, or on purpose for that matter, depending on whatever the headline is, they don't care what your stance is. They want you to click the article.
Yeah.
All of this shit being monetized.
All
this shit being monetized.
For Ozempic or whatever it is.
Exactly, and that's literally... There's a hilarious joke in the movie that came out this year, A Real Pain. Kieran Culkin won the Best Supporting Actor last night for it. Jesse Eisenberg's character creates the ad blocks that go on websites on the internet that generate and keep the internet going, period. And there's a whole hilarious joke. Kieran Culkin's character says, well, wow, that was a stroke. There's a whole joke that Kieran Culkin's character says where he goes, wow, so you just suck. You're like the shitty person everyone hates. And he's like, well, if I don't exist, the internet doesn't exist. So that's kind of important, and we kind of need to, be aware of that. And he's like, nah, you suck. We hate you. And like that's a perfect representation of what it is.
Yeah.
Like and Jesse Eisenberg. Look, for a moment, I'm going to suck Jesse Eisenberg's dick. The guy's a genius. I love him, Jesse Eisenberg. If you somehow hear this, which you won't, but you do, I know the universe works this way sometimes. I love you. Let me give you coffee on set one day for something, anything. I'm done sucking Jesse Eisenberg's dick.
I'll just say hi.
Yes,
Alejandro has really sold me on the whole, getting involved in the local community and trying to make, because the thing is, we're on the backside of the pendulum swing. So eventually, we're going to get back to a place where, not only are we in the middle, but we're going to have, I want to have two candidates that I can't decide between because they're both so good and so relatable and so representative of the people around them.
Yeah,
that
it's
like,
been a while since.
but I believe it.
I would.
I
I don't know
believe
if there
it.
ever really
also-
has ever been.
I also believe in it. That's the thing that I have the hardest time on the left with a lot of people, where they're like, dude, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I completely am for it. And even on some of the more radical things you're for, I can even get behind. But the system's rigged. It's all messed up. It doesn't matter. Who cares? What are you going to do? And I'm like, dude, the option that you're proposing is doing nothing and just letting it get worse.
Yeah.
I want to, even on a minuscule level,
Fuck
do
'em
something
up,
about it.
you know?
Change it a little bit. And it's cool because you can genuinely do it. It's this town is not huge.
No.
You can talk to 5 people and organize stuff. We've me and a couple of people, we've done GoFundMes for people. We've passed out legal information to a lot of people, to specific neighborhoods. We're organizing specific things like old people who went to that Democratic meeting. They're like, oh, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to help. And I'm like, literally just, we need people's time. Mm-hmm. Like, even for people right now, driving is a big issue because of checkpoints. A lot of people in Lancaster don't work in Lancaster. If you want to make decent money, you have to leave Lancaster. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're driving to Charlotte.
Is come into the community and talk to the people
exactly.
that are on the street.
Because I told them, like, a big issue they have is they're worried about getting pulled over, checkpoints or anything like that, and then they're on their way to work, on the way back home, all of a sudden they're getting deported. So literally just people giving them rides to work and back home from work, it will take in 2 hours out of your day max. And all of them are like, oh yeah, we can do that. That's literally 2 hours. What's 2 hours?
Yeah.
And it's like, but you guys didn't congregate together and do it. It took one person being like, hey, here's any idea for anybody to actually start doing anything.
That's the other side of all this too. Like, part of why I've not like been completely, people that are all about like one side or the other are just not like crazy to me. But like the whole way that they've handled like deportation and strengthening the border, like it's terrible, and
it's especially because there's a lot of like
you shouldn't be afraid about getting pulled over. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not you. I mean, but it's like
the societal
yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be worried about getting pulled over and then coming home and having to like basically be thrown back into whatever country you came from.
Yeah, and it's I've actually had this conversation before with Michael, your brother, because we were talking about white privilege.
I hate that guy.
he brought up white privilege, and he was like, Alejandro, you've known me for so many years. How am I privileged at all? And I was like, look, it's not a matter that you have more benefits. It's that there's some things that you will never worry about that cross
this
my
whole
mind
time that
all
you've
the
had this
time.
conversation, I'm like, how do I even give my opinion on this? Because my opinion is moot. I don't have my like opinion on immigration in general comes from a place that has zero nuance aside from testimonials from friends I have and from people I know. My opinion, I'm not the person who's like, I'm not the Bob Dylan of this. I'm not like on the ground. I'm not on the ground seeing it happen. Like, I'm in South Carolina.
Right.
I'm in rural South Carolina. I see only what people shout. I don't, that opinion is not one that I can have
but
and like deconstruct well with new, like, it's the gun debate. Of all the like big popular debates, the gun debate is the one I could probably like give a solid representation on the ideals of why I think it, you should be allowed to have a gun. I don't think everyone should have a gun.
Exactly.
I'm not one of these crazy guys who's like, everybody should fucking,
You should get a gun at the grocery store.
Yeah, you should get one at the gas station when you get a pack of cigarettes. Like, I'm not that guy. But like, I think there's a very, very reasonable argument for why people should be allowed to have weapons.
Yeah. I think you're wrong.
Okay.
No, wait. Not about the gun thing, but about like the whole, like, yeah.
Wow. Okay. That hurt a little.
One of the biggest topics.
I was like, this guy. I know it. The hilarious part is Creighton has a gun. I know he does. Like, so that's the funny part.
I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose my thought because like we'll talk about so many other things, and then I'll never get to say what I want to say.
Say it now. Say it now. Just say it.
I think thinking that you don't have a voice in an issue is a mistake because
here's why.
If you don't ask and you don't contribute,
I knew you were going to say that. I almost said he was going to. I was almost going to say that.
Exactly.
Here's the problem. Well, you might want to rescind that high five. I don't think you're going to like the tone of what we had to say about this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think we both know where I'm going.
I just high five to soften the blow. Like, we're still in this together.
And I think
I'm not saying.
Hold on.
Sorry,
no. Let me explain because I was thinking about your retort because I know this is always his opinion on this kind of thing. Well, I think that the opinion of the person who doesn't know is just as important as here's the thing.
How do you find out? how do you find out if
by
you
having
don't...
a conversation with Alejandro?
Well, no, but I'm saying like if
right?
you're like,
yeah, that's
well, like the way it came off is like what you said was like kind of like,
well, I wasn't.
Well, if I'm not in the conversation, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. If I'm not in the conversation, then I shouldn't just weigh in on it at all. But like, if you're not weighing in or having the conversation even to begin with, how can you find out? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the problem. So that whole mentality, that whole time that Alejandro was saying what he was saying, and you were saying what you were saying, I was sitting here like, how can I butt in with this with like a measured response and with like any kind of nuance? Anything I'm gonna say, I had to think about this. Like, is anything I'm gonna say like, does it carry any weight in this conversation? Because all I'm going to say is shit I've heard that I have no experience with, and that is not a good way to represent the side of whatever argument you're trying to make. Because, I could fucking write a book about myself called Devil's Advocate, an autobiography. I like to fight. I'm a contrarian.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so like if Alejandro starts talking about why, illegal citizens who live in South Carolina need to have a ride somewhere. Well, the first inclination I always go to is, well, they should be a citizen. And every time I have that thought, I'm like, well, okay, relax for a second, bro. You forget for a second that you were born here. You didn't have to take a fucking test. You didn't have to learn any language that you didn't already know.
Right.
You didn't have to, be dropped into a horrific scenario that you were running away from, got out of, came to a better place, started having opportunity, and all of a sudden, whether you're allowed to be here or not is, at stake if you're driving to work. I have to understand all that in a moment, in the middle of a conversation.
Exactly.
And that's what scares a lot of people is because that whole idea is not as articulated as I was able to just say it. They have to feel that emotion without knowing that that's exactly what it is, and then talk to a Mexican about it who is very well spoken, who can break them down in that moment and tell them why they're wrong. That's scary for not trying to. I'm just going to step on eggshells here. Like, that's scary for dumber people.
Yeah,
people who can't articulate that intellectually. That's that whole process that during that conversation that I was having was that's why I'm not going to say anything, because that's a silly way to frame the argument, knowing that's what's going to follow me.
I think that's part of what the Democratic Party issue has, is that I definitely, I 100% agree with what you're saying, but the issue is, Creighton has some point. You need to be a part of the conversation in order to learn, for sure. But at the end of the day, your opinion doesn't matter. It's just, it's important to the conversation, your experience matters, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But unless you're educated on the topic...
Yeah.
There's not much you should be saying.
I'm just coming from the place of fuck around and find out. You know what I mean? In that.
Well, hold on. I do disagree with the very last part. There is the very, to an extent, on paper, reasonable argument of American citizens live here, pay taxes, all that shit. Illegal immigrants are that. They're illegal immigrants. There are immigrants and there are illegal immigrants. An illegal one, that is book definition, breaking the law. And I understand that, and I'm as empathetic to illegal immigrants as the next guy. Well, there's a lot of guys who are not. That's not a great.
The next guy here.
Yeah, the next guy in this room.
That's not a really high bar.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a terrible way of framing it. But with that said, there's a reason people have that mentality, and it's because there are some people that just the law is the law. And that's where they're going to go with it. They're breaking the law. They need to follow the law, blah, blah, blah. The nuance comes in with how hard that is for people to do. And how hard it is to, have that vehicle to, not literally a vehicle, the metaphorical vehicle of becoming a citizen legally, when all you're trying to do at the beginning of the day is get away from a fucking horrible cartel-run government. The Mexican government has become a problem. We're not even talking about it. America doesn't talk. It's not one of the big issues. Right. We're looking at Ukraine and Russia, and Mexico's right there. Yeah. Their government is in shambles.
Mexico definitely has its issues, but I think that's also the other part that the Democratic Party has is even with what I said and how I said it. There's the part of let me figure out how to phrase this right, because again, it's not that I don't think it matters. Your opinion is important in that. It just comes from a place of. I feel like the majority of people aren't so much dumb, but ignorant.
Yeah.
And a lot of people choose to stay ignorant. And I think that's where a big problem of it comes. Because
that's a better way of framing it.
That's
not dumb, ignorant is people. I feel like people are dumb enough to not know what the difference is between that. Exactly. Is the funny part.
They start to focus on the wrong things, because even with like immigration, I think is a super great topic, because I agree with you. I think the illegal immigrants that are here should be documented. Yeah. But I think they should go ahead and be documented.
Yeah.
Because they're in this country. They've been in this country forever. They do nothing but attribute... illegal immigrants attribute $19 billion in taxes every single year, and they are not allowed to touch any of them.
Yeah.
Like, the children who are born here can, but that's because they're U.S. citizens, are born in this country. They have all those rights that you have from being born here. So you can't really...
And their parents aren't. And that's a fucking horrifying realization when you become 20 and or 16, whatever age, when you're into the workforce all of a sudden. Yeah, now you're not only representing yourself, but you're like carrying your family on your back, like metaphorically, with the money you make and the life that you are now hopefully going to be able to lead for these people.
And 1 in 5 houses in America is a mixed status family, meaning like...
Some are legal, some are not.
Right, some are legal, some are not.
Unknown.
And it's just interesting because, like, in the fiscal year of 2024, there were 23 murders done by illegal immigrants in the entire country.
But they blew that for every 2 states. Almost. But they blew that up to be.
This is legal, right? Yeah. 90% of the I think it's 70, between 70 to 80% of drugs seized at the borders are seized from U.S. legal citizens.
Yeah.
Because, like, if we're crossing the border, they're going to check my car before they check Creighton's. He puts on a Hawaiian shirt and a hat. This guy just got back from vacation.
Yeah.
Let him through.
I was in Tijuana. What are you talking about?
So it's a lot of these little facts that I think are important. Is immigration... Should there be some kind of reform? 100% yes. Were there a lot of illegal immigrants coming into the country? 100%. But I don't see an issue with people coming to the country in general.
Yeah.
The more people that are in this country, I feel we have the room, we have the resources.
Well, it's definitely right now the problem is with them being illegal is something like Social Security. Like, one of the many things that Elon will say that people are like, that's not a real issue. That is a real issue, in my opinion, is the population decreasing. People don't know how Social Security works. All these people who are like mad that like all these old people who are mad that they're like Social Security is not going to be great for you guys. Young people don't understand what the argument really is. Like, how do you think Social Security works, Creighton? I'm motioning to Creighton. Do you understand?
Don't we get like a chunk of what we put in over the course of our retirement, and it's supposed to subsidize for our living?
Sure, but do you understand how day to day how it is able to sustain itself?
I guess subsidize isn't the right word. Substitute for a job.
If you're 27, 6, how old are you?
How old do you think I am?
27. Yeah. Creighton's 27. You're 27. You're paying Social Security, right? Like you're paying that money goes into Social Security.
Yeah.
That's the Social Security that your grandmother's pulling out right now.
Right.
The money you're putting in.
Right.
So as the population decreases, there's less money going in. So the generations at the top are still taking out, but what they're taking out is
living longer too.
People are living longer. So that money is being taken out. Not enough is going in to build interest on what is going to be taken out for us by the next generation that is not existing right now.
So it's really those old fuckers' fault.
No, that's not
Sorry.
how that works.
Well, that's where a lot of people differ in opinions there. Because
the system is the problem. If we need to rely on the fact that we need to continuously build a bunch of people, that's a problem just because of as a society gets bigger, they have less kids because people are going to maintain success for longer. Like that just, boom, that happens in societies. Everywhere. Yeah. The more successful an economy gets, the longer you're going to stick with your career rather than start a family. That just happens to society. And the fact that Social Security is built the way it's built, our grandparents are going to suffer, or our parents are going to suffer the most because we aren't having kids. That's a ridiculous system. It's way more nuanced than that, but that's a way to frame it.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's one big thing that making everyone legal right away would be great for that argument alone, among many arguments. Because at the end of the day, this country started off as a fucking melting pot.
Exactly.
We were a bunch of people from another country that came here and ran the place, and then stood against the people that we came from, to seclude ourselves, make ourselves a nation, and boom, the whole cycle of racism starts all the way over again.
That's where
because people weren't born in the same piece of dirt as us.
What?
Sorry, I'm done.
With what?
That's
Sorry.
where I lose a lot of leftists. That I'm like, I agree with that. This is how the country was founded, and like, wow, those people were racist slave owners. I'm like, look. We understand the times were different. We're not apologizing. It's just.
It was a different
That's just
time.
what it was going on, but the fundamentals of the things that are behind it, we can agree on. That
if Elon leaves his Neuralink at his house unattended and his dog walks into it and learns it can talk, and in 50 years there's like a whole revolt against dogs and they become the next intelligent species that can pay taxes and have a job
There's a whole Rick and Morty
and talk. I know, but what I'm saying is, like, we don't look at dogs as if they're our slaves.
Yep.
But that's how they'll look at it if they become intelligent.
I've actually had this, because I've had that conversation with a bunch of people where I'm going to say in a few years, like you said, all of a sudden owning a dog, holy crap, can you believe people own dogs? That's so cool.
It just
That's
wasn't
so
the mentality. Racism wasn't even a concept during slavery. And once it was, bro, we nipped that shit in the bud.
There was definitely a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
But we did definitely...
I'm saying a whole civil war.
Yes. There was a war. And we got there, though. But what I mean is, the problem showed up, and obviously the winners won.
Right,
Or the right ideal won.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what a big issue comes to. People aren't willing to do that fight anymore. They want the result to be right now and immediately. And it's like, hey, you have to sit down and have these conversations with people all the time, every day. And again, it doesn't come down to you doing it every single day. But once you build that community, once you gather more people, once you start to do stuff locally, you have people who can talk about it every single day. It's not just up to you to do it every day. It's up to your community to do it all the time.
And change takes time.
100%.
It's not like overnight.
And even with the Social Security stuff, that's where, my views get kind of left, because the second I hear, issues with Social Security, how the government is funded, immediately I'm like, tax a billionaire. Just tax them.
Exactly.
Tax them immediately. 2% tax on just the top 5 people would solve world hunger,
so many problems,
education, and it's just
the real of all those issues. Sure, tax those people. The problem then becomes who is in charge of where the money goes, and that's what something like, again, and this is where we'll probably defer a little, is someone like Elon going in and having his people dissect where the money's been going and being transparent about it. To me, that's the important thing, is seeing where the money actually does go.
100%.
The final resting place of that money and what it's being diverted to and what, resources are actually, is Boyan Slat getting a bunch of money to take the garbage patch out of California's ocean?
Right.
That's important. And if we can have government subsidized money help that situation fucking speed up and have plastics out of our water, that's great. That's a way to use our money. But, pick a fucking ridiculous thing on one of the papers that they've shown the money's been going to.
But that's also
that's
where
what's been going on.
Part of the Democratic messaging comes from, again, because I don't disagree with you. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Someone definitely should go into the government and look at it. Just the fact that there's a blacklist at the end of every single year, which is just the millions of dollars that
Billions.
they're just like, this is just money that we don't know. Yeah. We just have no clue.
The Pentagon has failed its audit 7 times in a row. That's crazy.
And that's what I mean. I am on the left, hard left, and I agree with that. And I feel like most people do agree with that. And it's a Democratic left messaging issue where it's we're not challenging the auditing, we're challenging Elon Musk, especially because people break down the stuff that he is being transparent on, and a lot of it isn't transparent on. The number one ticket that was on there that was $8 billion, something that was worth $8 billion that he completely slashed, and he said that they take credit for the $8 billion. Once it's broken down, the contract wasn't how he thinks it is. He's not fully understanding how the government contracts work, that they're over years. Some of them have already spent some of the money, some of them doesn't have the money. So if you have a $1 million contract over 5 years and you're in year 3 of it and you slash it, you didn't save us $1 million. You only saved $2,500,000.
Yeah.
And the very first one, the biggest ticket item on there, that's $8 billion out of the $16 billion. Once you break it down, look at the contract how it is, it only saved $8 million, quote unquote, saved.
Yeah.
And that's half of that budget right there.
Yeah.
And
for that specific thing.
For that specific thing. And then the next ticket item has a similar situation. There's you can point to 16, 18 different things on that list that is like that. And the second you challenge that, it comes to, you hate transparency. You hate the government, that they're cutting government spending. And it's no, we don't hate that. We hate that you're claiming bigger numbers than you are. We hate that you put this person in charge of it when they only benefit. Elon Musk paid $0 in 2024 for taxes.
That's wild.
I don't
Donald Trump between 2017 and I think it was like 2014 to 2017, he only paid about $300 in taxes. Those are ridiculous numbers. Those are and they'll boast and brag about it. That's why after some of those numbers were released, they make it harder to find these things. And it just comes down to, even with people arguing.
Where do you see that?
You can look up.
Because, they'll people say about Elon, like, people complain, this is coming from somebody who, I'm not necessarily a fan of him, but I don't hate him as much as other people do. A lot of people come to his defense in saying that he pays the most taxes of any person.
He does.
Individually. Like, as a human being.
Yeah, as an individual, but his individual money, when they use his net worth, he's the richest person in the world, he's not getting taxed for doing stuff on that number. Because when you count that into Tesla owns that. Because even now he's saying like, those new government contracts that are signed, money. That wasn't me. That's the person from Tesla. But that directly inflates his net worth.
Yeah.
Like he said it. Like they made contract with Tesla to make armored vehicles, and he's like, that wasn't my decision. I'm just in charge of overseeing what contracts stay and don't stay. But they did negotiate that with Tesla. So that's a Tesla deal. I have nothing to do with that.
How much of his money do we know of is like actually here in the U.S.? Because doesn't how much of it? Because he would only be taxed on what's here, right?
Well, no, he's a citizen, so it's whatever money he makes, regardless of where the money comes from. If you're a Twitch, if you have a Twitch subscriber who lives in the UK and your money comes from the UK,
right. But what I mean, what I mean
it's still money that you're making.
Right. If he's making money off a Tesla factory that's wherever
in Texas.
No, not in the U.S. Like
all the Tesla factories are in America, like the factories.
Okay, well,
like
it doesn't have to be Tesla.
Like
I just was throwing a company name out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Say he's making money from whatever country, wherever that factory is, for whatever thing he's making. Like, if the majority of his money is coming in from that, like
he'd get taxed. He's supposed to get taxed from both places.
Right.
So he would get taxed here and there.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't understand because it's such a big.
When I won
When
I won that poker tournament, I had to pay North Carolina taxes and South Carolina taxes.
Right. But the reason I'm asking is because it's so much money that in like different flows of income that it's like
Yeah, at the end of the day, I have trouble. Like, I'm going to pay my taxes on the last available day this year, and I don't fucking have a job. It's hard. It's a complicated situation, and the guy makes more money than anyone on the planet. It's going to be annoying anyway. By the way, don't want anyone to panic, but the edible is kicked in.
Yeah.
So just be of the mindset that that's what I'm dealing with right now when I talk.
But when you say he didn't pay any taxes here, that's where my mind went. Is because does he? Because I don't know.
He's an American citizen.
I mean. I don't know.
I'm sure. Like, I think that him not paying any taxes.
Is he supposed to? Like,
in relativity to how much money he has, there's no way he didn't pay $1.
Also, I didn't know he was a citizen.
Crazy.
Well, there's
yes,
it is crazy. It genuinely is crazy because you have companies like Shell. They did not pay it. They got a refund.
Exactly.
They get
That's wild.
Companies they're profiting billions and billions, and then they get a government refund. That's the part that's so frustrating with a lot of people. They're like, these government handouts to these people. If you got all the food stamp money put together that is spent by all of these handouts, it's less money than the government subsidies they give to Tesla. Not just Elon Musk in general, Tesla in itself. They give more money. The government, our taxpayer dollars are given to Elon Musk at a higher rate than we give them to the poor and hungry people in America. That's where I see a big issue is. Yeah. That's where my big billionaire issue comes with. Because even homes in America, at the moment, you can give every single person in this country 3 homes. There's enough homes built in this country, and yet they'll tell you there's no homes in America. There's no this. Some of them might need work.
Yeah.
But we have the resources. We have everything we need to bring these people in, make them part of the community, help them out. If we just tax people how they're supposed to be taxed.
And they won't.
They just won't, exactly. Yeah. And that's what the issue comes, is that the people who are actively fighting against these changes are the people who are in charge now. All of the people who genuinely benefit from these things are not the average person.
He might have just red pilled us too. Huh? No, he red pilled you, or the edibles kicked in you.
No, what I was going to say is, but do you not think at the same time that before these guys were in charge, the other side was not doing the same exact thing?
100%. The other side is doing the exact thing.
That's why
and that's
I don't
what I mean.
like.
That's a
what
messaging issue.
Me. Yeah,
it's definitely a messaging issue.
It's hard for me to put my name behind the Democratic Party because when I say those things, that's the immediate pushback I get. Is well, the leftists do.
But that doesn't do anything to fix the problem.
Exactly.
Right. Like, but you were doing it.
Right. Like when they got Trump on those felonies or whatever, they're like, oh, well, Hillary needs to be locked up. Yeah, lock her up, dude. Lock him up. Joe Biden's crooked. Lock his ass up too, dude. I genuinely would love...
I think the difference there, like, that's a little wild, because what they're accused of is Trump got a bunch of felonies that anywhere else in the country would be considered misdemeanors. It was a bunch of, like, it's crime, all the same, but financial crimes. The stuff that Hillary Clinton is accused of is we're talking about murdering 35 people and committing some tax fraud.
Did you see
as a billionaire?
His mugshot in the White House?
Yeah.
Is
something you brought up earlier. Being an illegal immigrant in this country is not a crime in how people think it is.
Yeah.
It's in the same level as jaywalking.
Yeah.
And so if you put it in that perspective, every time a
comedians and movies and TV shows all make fun of the fact that like Mexicans will work outside of a Home Depot to get picked up to get taken to job sites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it is so known that we make fun of it not to like dishearten or lower these people, but to like make it understood that it's ridiculous that it's happening in the first place. You know what?
I was gonna say with the border thing, I think that like what you're talking about, huh?
Said I wish Aline was here.
I wish Aline was here. Yeah,
we can definitely do this again.
I'm so down to
do it. I'm also.
Yeah, we can definitely. I don't want to definitely influence to be this like the political podcast because we definitely have other kinds of conversations and stuff like that.
I'm gonna be throwing the dig jokes and
the question that has stuck out to me since we started this new season is Caitlin and them put it on at their restaurant and played it in the back, and somebody was like, "It's good, but like, what makes it different from anybody else?" And so like. This whole season to me has been about like what does make us different and like talking to different people, getting out the community and like actually like having people on that aren't just like, either up and coming or like, got their own cool shit or own cool story that they want to talk about. Like that's the goal. That's what I want to make different.
Yeah, dude. And that's definitely important because not as a person with depression, I've had that moment where I'm at the stoplight and I'm looking at these people drive by and I'm like, wow, every single one of these people have lived an entire life. That is a mom who has a child in the back. Yeah. She went to high school, did all this. And granted, a lot of the stories are probably boring, but a lot of people have a lot of interesting things to say that influence them in a very particular, very specific way. And I want to hear that. Yeah. Because I've just gotten to the point where again, I have a hard time aligning myself with the Democrats, but I just get thrown in there because I'm like, oh, I believe healthcare should be more accessible. I believe this, that, and the other. And they're like, oh, it's because I believe children should be able to eat food. It's because you're a communist.
Well, it's easier for people to like just categorize. They want to categorize and make everybody fit into like one specific thing or one other thing. And like the truth is there's a lot more gray areas for things.
100%.
But, a long time ago when I was in college, I read this thing about how, like, the human brain naturally just wants to categorize things because it's easier for us to understand. But I would say that I think it's much more involving to deconstruct those categories, you know what I mean? Because like for so long, especially the last 10 years, they've polarized us. They've like cut us against each other. They made it where I don't even want to fucking like turn on the TV for like any kind of news thing. I would rather either watch people talk about movies on YouTube or talk about like some kind of crazy celebrity conspiracy, But all that being said, like I lost track. The border thing.
Right.
Sorry. The ADHD.
So the gays.
The border thing. I personally would like, for national security, a more secure border. But I don't agree with just like throwing everybody who's in here illegally out.
Yeah,
I think
you can like both things.
Right. Yeah, I think what you're suggesting. Well, no, I like what his suggestion was.
No, I
like,
don't mean you. I mean like people.
Yeah.
Sorry, when I say you, I mean like the society.
I thought you were like you got to be one or the other.
Yeah, Creighton, decide right now. Yeah. Do you want a strong border or do you like Mexicans?
He's actually flashing his gun. He's you decide right now.
Tell me, bro. Tell me.
But no, like it was, like breaking up families, putting kids in cages. Like that's not what I want. Right. I just don't want to have to worry about like something like 9/11 happening.
Except the Hondurans, though, right? We can all agree.
Dude, that's crazy.
Brian Espinosa.
Hey, listen, I went out with this Honduran girl one time, and she hated Mexicans. Like it was crazy.
That
it was
is not what I was trying to bring up. I was making.
We can talk about this.
I was making a silly joke.
No, listen. So
you're
like
claiming Honduran hates the Mexican people. That's crazy.
This is
Creighton's like, ooh, yes, they are bad. What are you doing?
This is like the fuck around and find out thing I was talking about because like I had no idea. And then, like, the whole time we were on this date, she was just like, she just kept talking shit.
Oh, you had your moment where you realized other races can be racist?
Right. Well, no. It wasn't necessarily that. It was just, like, I had no idea. It was, like, just that, like, in your face. And, like, not even, like, really conscious about, like, the other side of it being, like, people look at her and be like,
racism comes in all colors, bro. Even the racists. Yeah. The racists come in all colors.
But, I mean, that is fair, because, like... Even me, when I've been to the beach with my partner, and we had a waitress once, didn't look at me the entire time.
Really?
Like when she took my order, when it came to refilling my drink, she grabbed my cup, turned to my partner. My partner's white. Turned to my partner, poured the drink, and then put the table down. Didn't speak to me at all. Didn't do anything at all. And my partner was like, "That's crazy." And they were so pissed off, and they were so livid. And I just sat there like. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I was born and raised as a Mexican guy with long hair. In high school, middle school, I painted my nails. Like I'm used to it. Like the hate crimes they're just not spicy anymore.
Not only are they like not only am I a different race, I'm also weird. So
right, exactly.
I'm used to the whole breadth of people not fucking with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and I'm just like that's like that doesn't bother me. And like to my average friend. Latino friend, they can bring up a billion examples of when they were like discriminated against, and people will be like, "There's no racism. I've never seen it before. I've never happened." And then the second they experience it, it's like, "Holy shit! This actually
they've been
is
racist
out there."
this whole time." I was being
with the civil rights movement. Was there something there? Like,
I don't think anybody's questioning if the civil rights movement was.
Listen, there's Holocaust deniers out there, which is wild.
I've had some very interesting conversations with people. Like you just bring up DEI in general to some people.
Oh, it gets them so fired
up.
I
don't even knew what it was like 2 years ago.
Dude, when they say DEI, I'm like, just throw the hard R in there. Like I know that's what you want to say. Like just say it with your whole chest. It's all good. Like it's good.
Well, I don't think it's all good. I think.
It just comes from that place again where I'm like, I know. We know. Don't lie to me. Like, I'm still going to be... And that's the other thing that I feel like a lot of people on the left also have an issue with. No one wants to be friendly anymore. The second someone's rude to you, gets upset at you, disrespects you in any way, you immediately do that right back to them. I personally love pissing people off more by just being like, yeah, dude, I love you.
They'll just kill them with kindness, bro. It's the most powerful, like... Daryl Davis is one of my heroes. He's a black jazz pianist who his number one hobby... What?
He did what with his penis? So.
His number one hobby in the world is collecting Ku Klux Klan robes from members that he has turned out of got out of the Klan.
Right.
By just being a friendly old dude to these like poor young like very shallow-minded men who just didn't really know any better. A lot of these guys, who are in the Klan now are like they're in there because their dad was in there.
Right.
They're not in there because they're only like I hate all black people and Mexican people. They're like, well, my dad says they're not the coolest people.
Right.
So I really like my dad. He's kind of my dad and all. And so it's like this familial issue, and he's gotten like Grand Dragons of chapters of like the entire Southeast to retire their
awesome.
Purple and green crazy robe that's a Ku Klux Klan robe you didn't even know existed. I thought they were all white. I didn't even know there were different colored ones. There's like straight up like cardinals of the Klan.
That's where
like in the way that the popes have cardinals.
This
like,
getting a little close to drag, isn't it, fellas?
It's wild. And like there's pictures of him like with a wall behind him of like 70 Ku Klux Klan. Like this guy's like turned like 280 members over the course of like 30 or 40 years.
And that's what I mean by like just having these conversations with people. I've gotten that experience a lot. Like, the amount of times I went to somebody's house in high school, and when I walk out of that house, their pappy looks at me and goes, you're the first Mexican I've had in this house. Fucking blows my goddamn mind. I'm like, okay, we can talk about this. Like, congratulations on your achievement.
Yeah,
like, where do we go from here?
You did it. You finally started that first step in a journey that takes 1,000 steps. Like, you have opened your heart to the idea of a Mexican breathing the same air as you.
I've had farmers, again, as a manager at events, they come get these big ass tractor batteries, only talk to cows 28 days out of the month. Yeah. And he was like, I can recall 3 specific instances where they go, for a Mexican, you're all right.
Yeah.
And I was like, did you expect like music to start playing as you walk out the door?
It's like the end of Breakfast Club.
Yeah. But what is it?
He throws his fist up.
I'm not gonna remember it. I can't pull that part of my fucking hard drive out right now.
I'll
tell you, at poker tables is my like most pleasant surprise. Like, there are like I've seen the worst racism I've ever seen, and I've seen the most open-mindedness I've ever seen at a poker table. Like, the breadth of range that can be sitting at that table. At the end of the day, there's a movie called Molly's Game with Idris Elba, Jessica Chastain, Kevin Costner, about Molly. It's a true story about Molly Bloom. She ran one of the most prestigious and one of the biggest like off the books poker games in history. Like a big cash game, like all millionaires, famous people, celebrities, big politicians, judges, everybody. One of the biggest games ever. And it was illegal, but kind of. It was and it wasn't. Watch the movie, great movie. Anyway, in that movie, she says that she makes a very good point that poker, for all these guys, for anybody, for Alejandro, for me, for like a local cop, anybody who wants to go sit and play, it takes your net worth and throws it away. It takes your position in life and throws it all away. If you've got $500 worth of chips and I've got $500 worth of chips, it doesn't matter where you come from. Right, it doesn't matter who you are. At the table, you are worth your stack of chips.
Right, you're just $500 worth of
chips.
Like
me being a white guy from South Carolina and you being from wherever you're from, that is gone. That dissolves because you now have to use your abilities intellectually to beat this person regardless of who they are. And I've bluffed judges out of $1,000 pots. And I've had my fucking $1,000 bluff called by a dude who works at a gas station, making $7 an hour.
Right.
Like it is the true level equalizer in society. There are lots of them, but it's a very good representation. And I've seen a guy I know who I love. I mean, he's one of my favorite people on this planet. He's a rancher. He has a farm. He sells cows, among other things.
Right.
And he has run and worked at some of the biggest poker games in South Carolina and in North Carolina over the last 50 years. Like, this guy has hung out with, Hornets as in the basketball team.
Right.
He's hung out with the biggest drug dealers, people in the cartels, and guys who just work at Charlotte Pipe. And they sit at poker tables together, and you know what they do when they're playing, or you know what they do when they're at the table and they're not in a hand? They talk shit. It's, there's a rule. You don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion. People almost never talk about religion, and very rarely do they actually get to where they're talking about politics. But when they do, it is so thoughtful. These guys are sitting there, and I might have just beat you out of $1,000 pot, $1,000 went into that pot, and I took it, and you didn't get anything back. You contributed; it's gone now, and now we're gonna have a conversation.
Right, I basically robbed you.
Yeah, I basically robbed you with my brain, and you were willing. You were an active participant, and now we are talking about the most recent episode of Game of Thrones. That is all happening at the same time, and you know, when you sit in that room and you have all the thoughts in your head and you get to an echelon of like skill that you are sitting at the biggest games of your area, like everyone's on a level playing field because they're at that game in the first place, and these games are usually very well vetted and very well protected.
Right.
They're not like the scummy craziness you see in like, you know, Martin Scorsese movies where like if you're at the poker game, like you're about to get shot. Like that's not
all the
what it's
light bulbs are in there.
Yeah, there are light bulbs. The place is guarded. Like
it's not flickering.
Yeah, it's not. This is like we have the sports on. Like we're it's a bunch of fucking dudes like of all backgrounds, and at that table everyone is equal. You know, there are dumber people who are going to lose more often because they're just dumber. But like in terms of ability, everyone has just as good a chance of winning the same flip as the other guy if the hands are reversed. And that's all poker, like, nonsense.
Right.
But all that is to say that people from all these backgrounds, they have the best perspective. I've learned more sitting at a poker table than I've learned anywhere else in my life, bar none, not even close. Because at that poker table, everybody's mindsets are clashing and everybody's having an active discussion because when you're not actively in a hand, there's nothing else to fucking do.
Right.
You're sitting at a table with 10 dudes.
Waiting your turn.
Yeah, waiting your turn to like maybe win some money or lose some money. And so, you know, it's this. I mean, the three of us are sitting here just talking. There it's talking and the intellectual stimulation of trying to do something better than other people.
That's honestly what I'm trying to bring into politics, kind of bring back into politics is we just have to have multiple different groups of people sitting down together, just having these conversations, spreading these ideas, and learning from each other. Because you're 100% right. Like, some of the best life lessons I've learned was, like, I'm talking to this random old man. I'm talking to this just guy who
Well, the people that can broaden your horizons the most are the people that are the least like you.
Right.
So the only thing you can do to like enhance your perspective is guess what? Talk to people you don't talk to.
100%.
Like if the three of us sat in here every day, it would be awesome and we would have fun. But you know what we wouldn't do? We wouldn't learn much. Like 10 conversations in, we're pretty much going to all understand. Like, Alejandro does not fuck with Elon Musk. Creighton loves Batman. Charlie, like, fucks with Game of Thrones heavily. Like, we're all going to have a pretty good understanding of where we sit after 10 episodes or 10 conversations. But we're also friends, but there's not going to be a lot of growth there.
Right.
You have to expand. You have to go out. You have to broaden the spider web.
Right, you got to bring people...
Catch different bugs.
You got to bring people in order for things to grow and expand.
Yeah.
And I think you guys, as similar as we are, do touch a different demographic that I also need to be in contact with more. Because I do concentrate a lot on my community, the people who are like me and stuff like that. And I've also learned that is creating that space that I'm trying to avoid. So it's a part of everybody being a part of that conversation, everybody being involved. Because at the end of the day, like, this town is getting screwed over more than anything. Like, I was talking to Evangeline Hudson. She ran here in Lancaster. And she gave me a statistic that she said about 50% of all government money that comes to South Carolina comes to Lancaster. Has been for the past, 2-3 years now. And none of that money is actually coming to the city of Lancaster.
I was going to say, there's been a lot of times where that money is very clearly going to somebody's pocket.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not making it to the fucking streets.
That's honestly why, me and him were, I don't want to call you out, but, with the whole school bill thing,
that's what I was the most apprehensive about it. I voted against it because I don't believe that money's going to go to the right thing, and all it's going to do is cost all of us more money.
Exactly.
And that's what's
why.
scary.
So I voted.
That's why I'm kind of for all this shit. Like with the Elon thing, I'm not I like it because I want him to do it. Right. I like it because someone needs to fucking stick a fork in the shit and mix it up.
Yeah,
and get shit scattered, and we need to fucking poke the beehive at the is a good way of.
I definitely agree. There's a lot of conformity. There's a lot of just everyone wants the same thing all the time. Nobody's been wanting to shake things up and make the change. Yeah. And because that's what Trump...
the people finally...
Exactly. Yeah, and that's something that Trump and Elon offered. Something different, something that's not the same. And even though it's not in the right direction that some people want, they saw it as a change and went for it. Yeah. So now it's time to try to offer... Something different on the opposite end. We don't have to say better. Yeah.
Well, but that's the goal, right? I think that we should look at it as a competition, but a friendly, respectful competition.
Yeah, there used to be honor in being on the opposition, being the polite opposition.
We have the best products when you have two companies competing against each other to be the best. So I think this is just, again, me looking from the outside in.
Right.
Sell me on something that's better than what they have. Because I want better. I want my kids to grow up
100%.
better than I did. I grew up better than my mom and my grandma both did. And I want to continue that, but not just for me, but for everybody, And
it's interesting that you even say like that, because like a lot of people would argue you're not so much better off than your parents were. Mm-hmm. You were just a lot more entertained. You were a lot more stimulated. You had a lot more variety given to you. But in terms of stability, in terms of what's going to happen in the future coming on, you have far less stability than they did.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I feel like I got a pretty good thing going on. For sure. You know what I mean? And I know for a fact my mom at my age didn't have this. I know for a fact, for damn sure at my grandma's age, she might have, I don't know. She was doing a bunch of shit, going around the country and
65 years ago, it was a little easier to earn a house.
Well, Papa was in the Air Force, so they were kind of all over.
What I mean is the times are very different.
Right? Yeah, 100%.
Both in not just your grandmother, but also your mother's time. Statistically speaking, none of us should even be close to having a house. You have landed in a pretty crazy situation.
Right. But I wouldn't have landed in that situation had it not been for the opportunities that my mom and my grandma took advantage of.
100%.
And I want to be in a position that my kids can have that opportunity
exactly.
as well.
That's what I mean. Is that's how they're at an advantage, because it's instability. Because even with how they grew up, if they had this, they were still able to put you into a position to where you're going to be fine. And you're now in a position to where you don't know if you can put the next generation in that position.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Point. That's a fair point.
Yes, there could have been worries with your grandma and your mom, but at the end of the day, I'm sure they were pretty confident. Hey, Creighton's going to be okay. My children are going to be fine, and we're not in that position.
Tell my dad that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But it's not just me though, and it's not just my kids. I want that opportunity for everybody across the board. I mean, I know it's not going to fall out probably like that, but there's it's like what you said. We have enough money, enough houses to give people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Houses. So why don't we put more effort into that?
This is the thing. The majority of the people do agree with stuff like that. If you... There was a survey done one time where they surveyed a bunch of people, and they asked the question, do you believe it is the government's job to ensure the people have the capability of living and surviving with the resources that they need? Mm-hmm. Most people will say yes. 90% of the people in there polled yes. And then when you phrase it as, do you believe the government should give government assistance and subsidies to help people gain the
Everyone
things they
says
need?
no.
Exactly. That percentage dropped down to 20%.
My question would be then, are we giving them a fish or are we giving them a fishing pole? Because those are two very different things.
That's a good point.
There are no fishing poles now. Yeah. That is the big issue. That there used to be fishing poles, but we taught the wrong people how to fish, and now they're hey, I can charge people just for the fish if I never teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
I have
Well, let's build some fucking poles, dude. That's that's where I'm at, because I mean,
and that's where majority of the people are. And again, people saw Trump as that, but
it's the execution.
And it's not even the execution. A lot of the things you can trace back directly.
Luckily, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, luckily, we are also one of the many crazy things getting attacked right now. In my opinion, a good thing that's happening is destroying the education, the fucking what's it called?
Department of Education.
Department of Education, because since literally the year it was founded, we have declined every year and never had an uptick since the Department of Education was founded. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's obvious. These motherfuckers can't read. People our age that we went to school with, I know them, can't read.
Yeah, 100%.
It's ridiculous what is being... You can now... now, I don't know, I haven't gone to the school and checked, but apparently a 49 is an F now.
Yeah. You have
it was a 69 for us.
Right, you have to
for us, 69 was an
It
wasn't
that long ago. I mean, for us, it was 10 years.
Yeah, bro, that is... You can get less than half of it right, less than half of what you learn you can get correct and go get a job.
Right.
Like, not get a job, go get a degree. That's wild to me.
I think also the way we look at education now has changed from when we were in school. Because it's like you said, everybody's got that square or the rectangle in their pocket that, has all the information at their fingertips.
Yes.
But it's how they look for that information, how, because it's like what you were saying. Read 2 or 3 articles, not just the first fucking thing.
Yeah, right. I've been reading a lot lately, period. Like, I've been reading a lot of Malcolm Gladwell. I've been reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Like, I'm actively studying for the sole reason to broaden my horizons.
Right.
But there's a negative connotation on the word study, on the word learn, on trying to actually actively take in new information.
Because it's like you're admitting you're dumb.
It's not even that. No, it's like it's something you were told you had to do and you didn't feel like doing when you were a kid, and too many people didn't wake up. They've become sheep in that was like a negative thing. Yeah. Like, my teachers want me to do homework. That's gay. I'm not doing homework when I get home. That's crazy. That's how we felt. Like,
it's hard to teach people to want to learn.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Destroying the Department of Education and starting over from, I don't know where we're going to start. This is very much like the whole Elon attacking USAID. It's more poking the bear and fucking shit up a little bit that I'm pro at the moment because of how bad everything's only been going down. Everything's been declining. If you shake it up, at the very least, it's not going to go straight down. It's going to it might trickle, it might plateau, it might go up. We'll see, but we need to change something to find out.
100%, and that's why I say that my disagreement comes with the people who are doing it. It's wrong, because even Trump, in his first administration, he tried to dissolve the Department of Education. His first administration did things that made it harder for the education department, and there weren't very many consequences for it. Like, he was allowed to affect it, and things got worse.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not saying much, because they weren't going anywhere.
It's already on that trajectory, correct? But the things he were actively doing is making more like charter schools, making it to where the rich can isolate their children from public schools, making these public schools less funded. Because I 100% agree with you. The Department of Education needs a mix-up. But we all went to Lancaster High School. Yeah. Imagine that school with far less money now.
Yeah.
With less direction, with less oversight. That's not what we need at the moment. Then you look at places who have some of the highest levels of education, like Sweden, Denmark. They don't have many private schools. So the rich are forced to send their kids to public schools, and they fund these public schools because they don't want their kids to go to shitty schools. So if we do that, these schools get more funded, these schools have more education, classrooms become smaller, which is what you need, because one teacher now has to deal with 40 Sigma bros in one class, skibbity toiling it all day long. Like, you need at least 10...
You just taking that order, or are you about to sneeze?
I'm about to sneeze.
I thought you were having a stroke.
I thought this was like sleeper code or whatever. Skibbity toilet.
You're just going to go all Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I was about to start fucking ripping necks. It's also, the thing that sucks about education in general is when it comes down to it, class size is, almost the number one factor for learning. They've of all the studies they've done, it doesn't matter if you're the most public school, if you have 1,000 people at your public school, or you're the most expensive private school in the world, if you teach 10 people in a classroom, it's almost as destructive to the child's learning as a 40-person classroom. There's a healthy in between of 16 to 24, 25, 26 that you need, because it is community-based learning. You need a bunch of people in one room, because if the teacher is the person who has the spotlight, they can only take so much spotlight before the learning has to start taking place, and that's what they'll tell you. And a lot of them, it seems like the gold standard is 18 people, according to Malcolm Gladwell. Mm-hmm. That 18 people in a classroom is the perfect number, where it's divisible by 8, 3, and 6, so you can have a bunch of different group sizes for activities. You can give just enough time to everybody throughout the school year, throughout the week, whenever, to make them feel like there is a one-on-one connection, and they're you're helping them learn, while at the same time helping everyone and encouraging community-based discussion and conversation and learning together.
Yeah.
And the problem with giving money to making it privatized is that you have all these parents who are afraid kids are going to get shot in a public school, or whatever the problem that they're worried about is. So they pay money to have them put in a private school. Private schools can work if you have a ton of people doing it. But the problem is, there's not enough people that can afford some of these private schools. Now, one way, this is totally, I'm on an edible, and this is a fresh idea. I have not read this part anywhere, but something I've been stewing on is, what if, instead of government money going from one place or another, instead there is now a new cap on what it can even cost to go to a school. Say that somebody wants to put their kid in a private school, let's just cap what schools can take in, so that there's an industry standard of the best school you can go to is going to cost like $10,000 a year, right? Because then there's not going to be that much separation.
Just get rid of them altogether.
But any price cap,
could you not just outlaw them?
Any price cap is communism. Immediate.
Sure,
that's immediately communism, socialism, bad, evil.
Sure, exactly.
That's where I have my leaning away from the right. Because I can definitely agree with a lot of that stuff. I can definitely be open to different positions, but at the end of the day, the policies that the right is actively passing right now goes against both ideas.
Yeah.
It's no, teachers don't get a say in how big their classroom is. Yeah. Kids don't need to eat. That free school lunches should not be provided to children.
I want to go ahead and state for the record, nothing I say comes with any kind of weight of I know what I'm talking about. I'm just shooting out the random bullshit I've heard.
School lunches, you shouldn't have to pay for them anyway. They're horrible. It's cardboard and some sauce, and I think that, and a little bit of milk for some reason. Make them better first if you're gonna make people pay for them. Exactly. And they should be free. To me, we throw so much money at other shit. You can't pay for people's school lunches. That's ridiculous.
Did you not work at Walmart at some point?
I worked at Walmart.
The distribution center or the?
No, I worked at
because even I have friends who worked at Walmart, and they tell me if they work in the meat place, the amount of meat there alone you throw away, the amount.
Well, but that's a whole other thing because there are so many standards and regulations. Even at Food Lion, we had the power go out at the one over on Airport during a hurricane or somewhere. Something happened right around COVID, and I mean, because the coolers were off and everything defrosted, all that had to be thrown away, and we couldn't sell it. We couldn't give it away. We couldn't donate it because if somebody gets even a little bit sick or even gets any kind of form of disease, the company's liable for that.
But see, that's where it comes to messaging again, because the company's liable for that, but at the end of the day, they don't do stuff like that because then they're if people figure out that they can get free food like that, they'll be cutting the power all the time. They'll be making sure the generators. There's a lot of different angles that come into stuff like that.
I'm just speaking of somebody on the inside what I was told, because I was everything meat probably needs to be thrown away, but I mean almond milk, dude, it's almonds.
Regulations are important. Don't get me wrong, to definitely protect the main public, but a lot of it isn't done to maintain health. It's done to maintain profit, maintain good shares.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where a big part of that comes, and that's where I feel again the Republican Party and even more specifically Elon Musk in general pry on. It's we're going to make these changes, but in a way that's going to benefit me, my people around me, and my group of people.
Do you know what that just reminded me of? This thinking about that meat and stuff and what you were talking about. Less about the Musk thing, but so my grandma cooks everything all the way through. But part of that comes from when she was a little girl, growing up during the Great Depression and everything. They would get bad meat all the time. Yeah. But they would still eat it. They would just cook it all the way through, so there would be nothing that could hurt them.
Yeah, I mean, my parents are the same way as well. They used to go to the dumpster and find chickens and eggs and make sure they can get chickens. They eat that kind of meat and stuff like that. You can definitely see the struggle and why there has to be regulations and stuff like that, but there's a solution there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just I think that one of the good things that might come out of the idea of Doge and what they're doing is we'll finally in RFK being in there is we'll finally get out of all this fucking regulation just for profit, But now again, the caveat is is Musk the right person for this? Right, is RFK the right person for this?
Yeah, because that's really what it comes down to. That's what I mean. We need options. We need people to come together. We need local communities to put people in position of power. Because again, even just those few meetings I've gone with the Democrats are like, we will financially support any campaign you have, and I'm like, that sounds cool and all, but I don't want to be your representation. I don't want to represent you. I want to represent what me and my constituents want.
Yeah. So are you trying to do a show?
So one thing I'm gonna try to do is I'm right now just made a YouTube channel. I haven't uploaded anything yet. I made a YouTube channel. I'm starting a Twitch channel. Calling it Kiks again.
Kiks again or
Kiks again. Oh, okay. Kiks again.
Okay.
One of my best friends who passed away by the drunk driver. His nickname was Kiko. So it's just kind of a way to put that name out there, and it's also part of like what got me involved in politics because it was a drunk driving incident, and just the legal stuff that went into that was just kind of jarring. Mm-hmm. And his mom really opened up my heart for a lot of things. Because when he was sentenced, the person who killed my friend, he was sentenced to only 5 years in prison. Mm-hmm. And everybody was upset. They were shooting for a maximum of like 15 or 20 years. Everyone out there was upset. Everyone was mad. And his mom looked at me, gave me a hug, and she was like, I'm really happy he didn't get more time. She was like, there was no point in 2 lives being wasted for one instance. I wish him the best, and God will do what he needs to do with him. Yeah. And that just like...
Forgiveness is a palpably, like,
it's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it is. Bro, that forgiveness is one hell of a drug. I didn't speak to or talk to my mother for almost 15 years. And when I did, and when I, like, not even when I did, I had forgiven her, like, 2 years before I even spoke with her. But forgiving her alone was this weight lifted off my chest. Yeah. But then communicating to her that I had forgiven her and, like, accepting her back into my life and becoming, like, having a relationship with this person who was gone for the entire important part of my development. Right. You know, but then, like, extending the olive branch of, I still want you in my life. I want to talk to you. I want to have I want there to be a dialogue between us because it's important for you and for me to understand like how we got here, so I can help with other people, so I can help this situation, and like that kind of situation, being emotionally intelligent enough to know that like my son just died, but there's no reason that like you making a mistake should ruin the rest of your life just because I'm suffering the most of this situation. Like being in a position where she is elevated enough where she can, you know, reach that side of her soul and her heart and go, look, I'm okay with, you know, this going, like, this horrible thing happened to me and my family, but that doesn't mean that it should ruin someone else's. Yeah. He has a chance now to understand that he's made one of the worst mistakes you can ever make, and he can come out of this on the other side clean.
Different. And that's something that I've always, like, tried to say in a motto that I've had for a long time is there's a lot of, like, shitty, gross stuff in the world. The world is sad, so I'm just never going to contribute to that. I don't want to. Like, there's no point in doing it. And I've said that for so long, and when she told me that in that moment, I was like, wow, I was genuinely had hate for this guy in my heart. And he was just my best friend. He wasn't my son. Like, you know, that's a deeper connection. And in that moment, I've always prided myself as someone who's loved everyone. And in that moment...
There's a whole show about this particular conversation, by the way, called Shrinking on Apple TV, starring Harrison Ford and Jason Segel. Little ad because I love them so much.
I love Jason. I wanted to see that show, and now I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm definitely watching it.
Literally, that is the whole plot. It's so good. It's such a good show.
And it's so funny because, like, when you see that, everyone can agree on it. And then when it's, like, presented to you as options, people are like, well, we have to discuss about it. Like, how can we all watch this, agree this is the good guy, agree this is the bad guy, and then when it comes time, it's like, well, I can see both sides.
In this particular situation, there's not even a bad guy. There's like it's like someone made a mistake.
Exactly, and in my eyes, I was like, this is a bad person. Yeah. And the fact that she was able to do that, in that moment, I really was like, okay, from now on, genuinely, I have love for any person out there. I had my issues, I had my struggles growing up, and it sucked. You know, it's hard. It's still hard sometimes now.
Your glasses are cool.
Thanks. It's hard now, so, you know, I just want to make it easier for everybody. Like, there's literally, if I had a hard time, I never want anybody to have as hardest time as I did. And I didn't even have the hardest time possible. There's people who have it worse. So I just want to make sure everyone can do better, want better. Like, every time I've had these conversations, even with these people who are like, you're just a terrorist, you're this, that, and the other, I'm like, Jesus. At the end of the day, what I'm advocating for is going to not only benefit me and my people, but it's going to benefit you and your people. And you can sit there and say you hate me, you want me dead, whatever. I am still going to look at you in the face, say I love you, and I think you deserve more than what you have now. I think you deserve. And it's just, that's always the conversation I have with people where I'm like, you work hard, you try every single day. And because of that, I truly believe you deserve to live a happy life. As long as you're actively doing something in this world that isn't harming anybody, you deserve a happy, comfortable life. The goal should not be to become rich. The goal should be to live happy. And we live in a society now where the only way that people think they can do that is by becoming rich. Mm. So we need to shift that mentality, that mindset, that goal. If, hey, as long as we can live a happy, comfortable life, we did it.
My mentality the last couple of years has been just like get myself into a position where I could do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah.
Whether that's creating or making stuff like with the podcast, or like, for instance, we just helped our friend Nick make his music video. Like just getting out there and like, I like writing. I like production. I like, being able to take like two best friends hanging out or whatever and making a whole music video about that. Yeah. Granted, that's Nick's thing, but I helped with it.
Right. So. I think a big issue with our generation in like being emotionally ready, but also like just financially ready to even get to a point where they can afford to have these conversations and like dedicate time to this is so much harder because of how hard it is to make a living and have a home right now. Mm-hmm. Like people in our generation, it is becoming not only the norm, but encouraged to not try and move out of your family home until like your mid-30s.
Yeah,
like 30s.
And
like
that's something
my dad was 24 when he had me. He had three of us.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like he was like out and had a home right away, like at 20. Yeah. Like,
I mean, even for like my parents who like struggled and had to go through stuff, and people in my family, like some of the people in my family were in this country, a whole different country with a language they didn't speak, not close to a single person that they grew up with their entire lives, in a slap dab in a place they've never been, and they have two kids and are like 20 years old. Yep. Like I'm like, oh, that is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
And they struggled, but were still able to get to the positions that there are now to put me in a position to where I can do things. Like I can waste time. Like if I want to sit down and play video games for 5 hours,
bro, dude, when I leave here, I'm watching Good Will Hunting and playing Overwatch 2. Like that is the most privileged use of a Monday night that anyone can have.
And the fact that I have Latino friends who are like, yeah, but who cares? Yeah, but that doesn't mean I need to do anything blows my mind. I'm like, look, if they gave me that opportunity, I have to do something with it.
Yeah.
Like, so those videos again.
The first thing I'm gonna do if I don't have a house, I'm gonna figure out where I'm sleeping.
Exactly.
Like you get like getting to the point where we have the opportunity to sit here and talk. In itself is a success and something we should not like squander.
Yeah,
by not trying to help people and help the status quo of what's going on. Because if we were privileged enough to get to this point, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be available for anyone else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I'm going to go ahead and let everyone know it didn't take a lot of hard work for me. Like I sat at the table and slung cards and got paid too much, and I still do it, and it's great and I love it. But like at the end of the day, I got lucky. I had to work hard, and I had a great work ethic, and I am capable of hard work, and I've done it a million times, but I was very fortunate to get a job like I have, and to make the money I make, and it didn't hurt getting lucky in a big poker tournament and winning a ridiculous amount of money all at one time too, but that is a thing that is great and can help, and now it's time to pay that forward. Yeah. It's time to start being constructive.
And the fact
conversations like this are so important.
The fact that you can even say something like that is why I do have respect for you. Because the amount of people who get offended by the fact that you're like, the position you're in, regardless of how shitty you might think it is, you are lucky. You are absolutely lucky.
Anybody who's in this country, illegally or not,
you're lucky.
Bro, you're in America.
Right? You are absolutely
Creed has
lucky.
a quote like that. He's like, what if I won the lottery? I already won the lottery. I was born in the USA, baby.
That's like for real though.
Yeah, like 100%. And it's like it's
Wolf Mother has a great lyric in one of their songs about that. Like you keeping people out of America, you're immigrants too. Like that whole idea of like we own this place. Like, bro, we got lucky as fuck that like our great grandfathers like came over here to get away from the madness happening everywhere else. Like, if you can get out of the place you're in and get here, you've already like
you're ahead.
Checklisted.
You're super
like
ahead.
You're already like fucking top 10%.
I talked to my family in Mexico, and I'm like, literally the only difference is location.
Yeah.
You look so much like me. We're both equal amounts of stupid. Yeah. like we're both idiots. I'm just in a different area code than you, and I'm like a billion miles ahead of you. And it just comes crazy. From where I'm at.
That's wild.
But yeah, the YouTube, Twitch, I just want it to be conversations with anybody. So if anybody wants to be a part of it, I would love for them to reach out to me.
I'm not going to.
I think you should. I think you should come on once a month with us and like just do like an Alejandro check, like you know.
Yeah, I would love. Honestly, I would love that. And again, anybody and everybody who wants to have a conversation, whether on your podcast, outside the podcast, privately, publicly, whatever. My Instagram is Alejandro Fernandez Vasquez. Again, that Twitch and YouTube is going to be Kiks again. Hopefully, we're going to be able to put stuff out soon. As soon as we get some people we can definitely get interviews with. We have some people lined up. It's just a matter of, sitting down, recording it, making it not look like crap.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to do any of that. Because my brother was a technology guy at the house. Like, if the Wi-Fi goes out of my house, I call him. I don't just unplug the router. Yeah. Like, even though I know I just got to unplug it and plug it back in, I'm just like, Robert, my Wi-Fi went out. What do I do? Yeah. So I'm terrible with technology, so it did take me a little second. But hopefully we'll be able to get stuff launched like that, and just anybody and everybody who wants to talk, have a conversation. Just
so we probably shouldn't be on your first episode because like you seem like you're doing a more serious thing and like
no. Again, any conversation at all is great. Like any at all. Like I've had conversations with children that like led to productive things because being Latino, being Mexican, there is some racism against black people in the community. Mm-hmm. I grew up again in a trailer park. I had some neighborhood kids. They saw a black person. Anytime a black person would walk through the same area that we were walking through, that we were also not allowed to be in, they would run, hide, go closer to home, get closer to people. Like, they would, like, and they're just children. Yeah. And I would tell them, like, what the hell are you guys doing? And they're like, well, you got to be careful. Some black people are criminals, some black people are this. And I was like, look, at the end of it, I was like, me. That's so awesome. I was like, you and him have way more in common.
It's awesome that perspective is, like, that perspective is nuts to me.
It's a thing that's real. And again, this kid could not be 7 and like 5, They're just children. In the end, it just comes from
imaging.
Yeah, imaging, ignorance of not having that experience, being out there, not literally just sat there with them. I told him, look, at the end of the day, you and him are in the same category in the eyes of the general public. We are minorities. Yeah. We are in the same exact neighborhood. He lives 5 houses down from you. You guys probably eat the same meal once a week because all we can afford is McDonald's every Friday.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like it really comes down to education. When I went to Lake Murray Elementary School in Lake Murray, South Carolina. It is the whitest location you can go. But in all of my schooling, it's where I learned the most about civil rights. That's like a terrifying idea of what is happening with civil rights. Because like little Mexican kids having that perspective at 7. At 5, I was already being taught about the civil rights movement. Right. And like Ruby Bridges was my hero. There were 2 black kids at my elementary school. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I remember the fact the name Ruby Bridges
is
like
crazy.
Ruby Bridges.
I remember having like the thought as an elementary school kid, like, what if like they tried to reinstate slavery? Like, we would all, like, in my little kid, it was like Power Rangers, like, we would all stand in front of our 2 black friends because they were our best friends, and we protect them. We're shielding them from 7-year-olds. We're shielding them from, the big grown-ups.
Instead of, like, the school shooter jumping in, you were thinking, like, what if they cancel civil rights? And
it's literally, that's where my brain was learning about civil rights as an elementary school student, and then I hear, as a 29-year-old, that there are little 7-year-old Mexicans out there scared of black people because they've been taught that black people are criminals. That's crazy. Yeah, that's such a wild perspective to even consider, and I haven't yet because that's just not something I've been around.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's so wild to me. And fucking hilarious. Like, God, I'm just, every time I see a little Mexican kid, I'm going to imagine, like, what if David Strain walked in?
Oh, my God.
They would freak the fuck out. I love him. He's my brother.
There are Latino comedians who will make that joke in the store because it's such a universal experience. Yeah. We'll be in the grocery store, and if you're not paying attention, ese moreno te va a llevar. That black guy's gonna steal you. Like that's something like that's like a saying I heard growing up.
That's so funny.
And again, it just comes from this just ignorance because at the end of the day, again,
black people just can't catch a fucking break, bro. The Mexicans are scared of them. The old white people.
Right, and I'm just like, we are in the same camp, brother. We are right there together.
Yeah.
And it gets even more diluted with some of the people that I know because now you're talking about people who are Mexican whose aunt is an illegal immigrant, but their mom isn't. And they're like, well, they did come here illegally. And it's like, dude, you're eating at your aunt's house every single week, at least once or twice a week. And you're like, yeah, but my parents are just low-key better because they filed the right paperwork. So I'm just saying,
That's...
You
aggravating.
No good snacks and I hate you.
They're on the pantry. You know this. You've been here many times. He's a silly goose.
But yeah, man, for sure. Anytime you or anyone else wants to have
we need
another
to set it
conversation,
up.
Definitely would love to come on here as frequently as you guys are willing to have me on here.
Yeah, of course, dude. Listen, we'll talk to anybody. Like he can tell you, like it's
that's
not
terrible. That's don't say it like that.
Well, no. I mean, like there is no
for the right price.
Yeah, there is no as long I think the vetting because he was concerned the other day. He was like, "Man, I'm really worried. You've kind of you haven't fallen off, I guess, but it's what if you have the wrong person in the room with the wrong people?"
What I was saying is he keeps it a secret. And that's scary to me because it's he is so bad at organizing groups of people.
I've done it 12 times now without a hitch.
Yeah, and 2 times I didn't know who it was going to be and who they were.
And to be fair, one person is missing today.
So. Yeah, already. So
well, that wasn't my fault. That's pussy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we didn't have, you didn't say no one knew that.
Oh, did we not say that earlier?
We did not say
I thought
that.
you. Oh shit. Well, fuck them. I was gonna bring it up.
Honestly,
anyway,
if they got
podcast.
2 hours and 40 minutes deep, they deserve to know. By the way, Caitlin's work, guys. If you're still listening, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I appreciate anybody who's willing to just listen and have a conversation.
Yeah.
If I want people to come up to me and talk to me, so I appreciate anybody who will listen to me ramble. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. I am only as informed as the information I've looked up. I'm no expert. I'm not college educated when it comes to stuff like that. It's just Google is free. And anytime anything that's come up, I'm just like, let's just look it up real quick.
I mean, listen, me and you've talked already on the side about production ideas and stuff, but whatever you need, you got our full support. You got our, whatever you need, we got you.
Man, I appreciate it.
I don't know about whatever you need. I'm not gonna give you any of my stuff if you need it.
I just need time.
I love you.
That's all I needed.
Okay.
If anybody ever asks what I need, how to help, what to do, what they need to do, it's just literally dedicate time.
Effort, maybe some pamphlets.
I mean, even effort is minimal time. If you're, I've even told people, dude, you have a license. Even if you want to take these people, give them a drive stoned, you're better off doing that than letting them do this dangerous thing by themselves. Time is all you need. Time is all you can change the world with some time. You just don't have enough of it.
That's cool though, the drives. So you organize that? Or?
I'm trying to at the moment, just because you have to find where the most group of people are, and at the end of the day, that turns into also if we're trying to fight for that, then we also have it's more going to public transportation type stuff.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna attack that avenue, we also want to attack the public transportation issue.
Yeah, there's none here. We need some.
There is some. That's the there is some here. Lancaster has a ride share service. That's
bars?
Yeah, they have that, and we have.
I thought that was just for old people.
We have a veteran taxi. We have stuff like that. So we do have some for specific marginalized groups. So the goal would just be.
But we don't have a railway.
Exactly. So the goal
or
is just to
buses.
Expand a little bit on that. If we can get one of those large cars to just be able to pick up any person from at least one spot and take them to a different spot, that's.
Let's get that bus, dude.
Don't talk about it on here. I was going to talk about that later.
Oh, really? Damn.
Stop.
Never mind. Sorry.
Anyway, let's wrap it up so we can talk.
All right.
Yes.
All right. We need to wrap. It's getting kind of late.
It did get kind of late.
But it was a good podcast. Most of them are.
It was okay.
I really do want to get on that
fantastic.
whole like having you on once a month because I think it's fun and like we could see the progression of like what all you're trying to do.
Yeah,
and, like,
I mean,
watch the growth.
I also would really, really appreciate Alim's perspective and, you know, what's the word? Construction on this.
Yeah.
Like, he's very good at breaking these things down and helping,
Yeah.
you know. He has probably, of all of us, been around the most types of people.
Right.
That means,
And it's very good at explaining other people's perspectives
Yeah.
and like, what they see.
my homework for you is like come up with your best Diddy jokes.
Diddy jokes?
Yes, and then like when you come back, just unleash them.
That's a crazy homework assignment.
That is a crazy homework assignment.
It's so fun. Horrible situation, but God, it's just the stuff that keeps coming out is crazy.
I like how Creighton's idea of like, yeah, go off in the political world is go make fun of Diddy.
No, this
back.
is for me. This is just for me.
Yeah.
Like this is like
Well,
for
then
us.
in the podcast, because that'll just be for you and not the podcast.
Yeah,
It sounds
that's-
like you want him as a
Well,
politician. Come
I
back.
want him to get done with this political
That'll
thing.
get my vote.
In the episode. In the episode. Episode's over.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Alejandro, thank you for coming on. Charlie, as always, thank you for being here.
I'll
Let's
leave him,
spin
go fuck
shirts
yourself.
off. Episode 12, season 3.